Good morning or good evening, as it is out here in Europe, and hello everybody. It's been a while since I've been traveling. I started with Prague and Czechia and Poland and Germany and France. I had to see Roger, as you know, and then back through everything, and now I'm in Ukraine. And according to my Ukrainian friends, we are no longer using the Joseph Piefarel, the Ukraine. We are just calling them Ukraine. So they are not the Ukrainians. And I got Brandon on here to tag team with me a little bit because I have been literally up and down the front line all day. With It was nice. I took the train up because I went in from Przemyśl in Poland, which is an amazing town, and I cannot say that enough. All know how I love Metz. I love Flemish, and then I went from there to Lviv, and it wouldn't take a whole lot of convincing for me to fall in love with Lviv as well. And you will notice both those two towns are originally predominantly built by Austro-Hungarians. So, and then I went to Ivano-Frankivsk, where we had a fortress convention, and I did a little talk on how people preserved and displayed their fortresses. It'll come up at some point. And then I took the slow train to Kiev and was picked up by a captain from the Ukrainian army. And we've been hanging around for the last couple of days, seeing things, some of which I can show you and some of which I will show you. And one of the things I predominantly wanted, he's also the curator of a museum here, of one of the big citadels, which I can see from my window. I will see if I can turn my computer around. I'm loading footage right now, so I can show you out the window here. And there hasn't been any air raid sirens for a couple of days, which according to the locals are strange. However, the weather have been atrocious since yesterday, and has been thunder and lightning and raining. So, the traditional nothing moves. So there hasn't been any reason for that. So when I'm done, I'll show you out the window, see if anything interesting happens out there. Number one, I came to Ukraine for a few reasons. First of all, the seminar, the Fortress Convention out in Western Ukraine. And number two, I'm most definitely not here, not now, not to talk about any of the political reasons or motivations or anything else political. I'm not. I don't talk politics. I'm here for actually World War II history. And what made that so insanely interesting today was that, well, a battlefield is a battlefield, and as we always know, a battlefield that is probably a battlefield that some point in time will be again. And I wanted to see the various Sorry, it's been a very long day. And I've been carrying shrapnel and rockets all day for, I'm not entirely sure why, but somebody thought we should bring them off the field. So we did. And guess who get to carry the heavy stuff? Anyway, the Stalin line was the first line that was constructed prior to 1939, when the Russians and the Germans both invaded Poland. And it started already in 1924, where the Stalin line facing west began construction all the way along the Polish and German frontier, predominantly against the Polish as well, since they had their shall we say, wars. And so the Stalin line had quite a long time to be built, and is always referred to as the Russian version of the Maginot Line. And we all scarf a little bit and we laugh a little bit when we hear things like that. Then when the Russians and the Germans invaded Poland, they split down the middle, then quickly the Russians built the Molotov line, Molotov being the Russian foreign minister. And they built that. It actually goes, it was the longest fortified line of the Second World War, the Molotov line. But they only had about a year. And I'm still sort of piecing my way through different historians' accounts of who and how that was constructed. and that there's some forced laborers in Poland that's claimed to have done it, prisoners. The Russians used all sorts of slave labor and things. According to one, according to another, they didn't. I'm well. I'll before the actual episodes come out, I'll figure out actually who did it and how they did it. I think locally they did it in different ways in each place. Is what I'm sort of boiling my down to. Anyway, the Molotov line, I was impressed. It's a minute. I'm in a hotel room, and a minute's gonna knock on the door because I actually told. Come on in. There's my food. Right? Yeah. Come on in, my darling. Sorry, I'm talking to the world. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, money. This will officially be my breakfast, and it doesn't come with a whole lot of anything. They don't do a lot of garnish around here. So, sorry, I don't want to be that guy, but it's been a long day, and you know me, I don't have time to eat anything that doesn't come out of a gas station. Ukraine, no different. Right? So, the Molotov line, I was really impressed because I saw a few of them that have been destroyed, and they are extremely heavy in rebar. They are really, really well built. Rivals anything the Germans did. And I'm working my way backwards and forwards on that one in a minute. We will talk Ukraine history as well. We will talk about what's going on. Don't worry. I know you're all sitting out there just waiting to ask those questions. I know you are, and a little bit about what's actually going on and what I've seen. And don't worry, I'll tell you what I've seen. I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you what's going on around me, and I'll try to be objective about it. Although I've seen some things today that really, really, truly upset me. So that's why I don't need a little food and think happy thoughts about bunnies and stuff, because today was one of those days. And anyway, I also visited some military hospitals and some stuff and some bases, and I found out that there's a bathroom in use in a military base here that was built in 1840s, and I'm talking about the bathroom, and it hasn't changed. So officially, I have used the oldest bathroom ever in my life yesterday. Anyway, Molotov line, very impressive. And when I then move up here, I spent no time with the Stalin line historians today. Really cool, really, really cool guys trekking through the forest. Unfortunately, they're both military. So it makes life a little easier, but I do have military press credentials. I made sure all the T's are crossed before I got here, because I'm not going to roam around in a country at war without all the proper credentials and a large camera and a drone and everything else, because it just seemed like a stupid thing to do. So I have my press ID and everything. Not that everything is fine in that sense, and there's the fighting around here ended last year. So in that sense, that's fine. However, then I get to the Stalin line here, and it's very interesting because I can't now. I have no idea how I'm going to do it when I get to the episodes, but this is really, really interesting. The Stalin line bunkers here were used in the battle last year. The Russians came in exactly the same advance routes as the Germans did in 1941, which is really interesting. So the Ukrainians literally, physically, I can actually properly use the term literally, they literally redug the trenches between the Stalin line bunkers and fought out of them in the same direction. Taking a detached view, that's pretty damn cool. Although this is war, so nothing is really cool, and it's the wrong word to use. The history, some years from now, the historians will think that's really cool, that you have fortifications built in 1934 that were in battle, serious battle last year. And if you have any doubts that the battle here for Kiev last year was just a feint, like I thought it was. Um, I'll bring you in because let's see if I can. People, I can see you, although you're like totally crooked enough to the side and sleeping and everything. This is one of those things where I think I should have a conversation. And Brandon, if you'll keep an eye on the chat as well, because I'm literally so damn tired I can't see.
Absolutely. I'll keep them all online. I'm watching you guys.
Right. And this is obviously, I've seen, there's some fortification that I have found. Also, the fortifications around Warsaw that was being constructed still in 1915. So I found the newest World War I fort. I mean, the last one to be constructed of the World War I, because it was still under being built. There's a whole ring of fortresses around Warsaw. They were still being built by the Russians at that time when the war began. Which also, now you have to remember, in 1914, the Belgian forts were completely demolished because these were unreinforced forts that was destroyed when the 420 millimeter German shells plunged into the powder magazines and destroyed the forts. That's when all the French, they pulled out all of their troops from the fortresses around Verdun and everywhere else because they said, well, hey, we can't defend these forts. They're just going to be destroyed by German fire. A year after that, the Russians were still building fortifications around Warsaw. And they learned something. Apparently they forgot about it recently, but they learned something from World War I really quick, because I found forts that are full of rebar from World War I. Steel, cement, rebar, stone, steel domes being constructed for World War I with a thickness of 2, 3, 4 meters. And I was blown away. So I'm going back to Warsaw because, and you can't believe this, and this is like me in a candy store. So you have this huge Fort Modlin. This is the longest building in Europe, 2.3 kilometers long. It's a barrack. It literally circles around. Amazing. That was the main fort built after the Napoleon era. Remember, the Russians defeated Napoleon, and then they sat there on that area until practically World War I, where the Germans then kicked him out in 1915. But they were building, so they built, memory serves, some 18 forts around steel, cement, steel dome, artillery forts around Modlin, all the screen Warsaw. And they are all different. So we're not going to go through one fort that looks like the next, that looks like the next. They are all experimental forts, and they are all different. They're all unique. So am I ever going to get out of Poland? I don't know. I haven't gotten out of Ukraine yet. And I thought I was going to be out of here by the time, but I just keep seeing things. So now I'm seeing these Stalin bunkers, which are really heavily reinforced. I'm going to put up a little video after this chat. Whenever I'm done rendering, I'm going to put up a little video of my first visit to a Stalin bunker, which is not, it's actually the third, but that doesn't matter. Just to give you a little bit of idea, they were far more advanced than what the Germans had. So there's an evolution of war. And, in the West, no one really ever cared about what happened west of Germany. If it wasn't Battle of the Bulge or the D-Day or, but all the interesting stuff, it happened here. And as it so happens, it's still happening here in a less interesting way. I'm gonna take a little bite every now and again of this here schnitzel, and I have not seen any news for the past ever. No idea what's going on in the outside world. I have no idea what's going on at the front line. I haven't, because anything you hear, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're here. We have to talk a little bit about what's going on about the Ukraine war. So let me tell you, like I said, I never really do anything that's past 1945, because that's my wheelhouse. And you have no idea all the cool stuff I'm going to show you when we get to the rest of the year. However, I put up a couple of screener little things, and that's interesting. I saw you lost your mind on that one. And like, I don't do political commentary on the current situation. I have very much my own ideas of why this happened, and I would like to see a very, very well funded and forensic account of why exactly it got to here, because shouldn't have. This should not have happened, and this dates back 10, 20, 30 years. Now, however, no matter who, so I'm just going to, does right now, for the sake of what I would talk about, especially at this time and point, um, uh, why this happened, how this happened, all the things that led up to these things that happened, doesn't matter. This is a country that is actively at war. And anybody who you cannot dispute that. There is a war between Russia and Ukraine. That's not something that I hardly think that's propaganda. That's a damn fact. And driving through the country, you see you hear area sirens go off every now and again. And it has now been a year and a half. And in the smaller cities, rarely some things happen. So most people don't respond most to it. Kiev have seen some sort of rocket attack very often, if not every day. From most of what comes in seems to be directed at specific places, headquarters, during the battle, military hospitals, and I know because I was there today. It's a shit show, and this town has suffered, and these people have suffered, and I really wanted to take a detached, impersonal approach to this and look at this all. I wanted to come, and I was really fortunate. I spent all day with one of the veterans of one of the big tank fights. He was there. I stood on the tank that he destroyed with an RPG. And here's the truth of the matter is, yeah, well, from what I understand, the U.S. and NATO have been training Ukrainian soldiers for several years.
Yes.
These guys, and Brad, I can't tell you this. Russian tank advance. These guys were local home guard. There was 3 trained military army officers and 97 civilians that had less than a month training. And they wrecked this whole Russian tank column. They had him bunched up between two units of Ukrainian tanks. They had him pinched up. With a village with a whole column of Russians, APCs and T-72s. And then they flanked him from the woods, and they shot him to shit. They killed every single one of them in there. 97 civilians with the ages between 18 and 67. They knew the terrain, and they were fighting for their country. And seriously, and then you can say the weird thing is I thought I'm just looking at this food here. It's like I really haven't eaten.
Take a bite, man. Just do it.
Do it. Yeah, but this is hard because I came here and I always said, well, you know, I always thought, and this was on me, that a modern Russian army would comprise of more civilized people than it did in 1944-45. I thought we had learned something. We had gone past atrocities and rapes and murders and torture and indiscriminate shelling of civilians. Nope. I really thought that. Okay, there's then some indication that the Russians, this was the professional standing army that came to Kiev. They thought they were going to take the town. I thought this was just a probing attack. They were starting from 10 different directions. They were going to see how far do we get, and then they press whatever is successful, which would make more tactical sense. You hit the enemy from different directions, and wherever you're stalled, you slow there. Classic World War II German tactics, and then you press home where you have an advantage. This was the professional army. They actually thought they were going to roll into Kiev and be greeted as liberators. They thought, from what they had been told, that this was going to be an easy walk-in. The Russian bank in Kiev 3 days before had been sent enough money to pay the Russian soldiers when they got here. That's how easy they thought this was going to be. They didn't have logistics or food for more than a few days. Now they started stealing all the food from the Ukrainian stores. That's where some of the Ukrainians shot them up. They didn't have the logistics in place. They thought this was going to be a cakewalk. They literally thought that, but they were actually aiming to take Kiev. Interesting that when the Germans did it in 1941, they came in, they took all the villages around Kiev, and then they started pressing in their attack. It was one of the largest encirclements, 200 kilometers from the town center here. There was a huge encirclement in 1941, and the Germans took the towns as they surrounded it, and then they pressed in from different directions. One of them was the one the Russians took. The thing that they broke every single rule of a tactical rule. They went in. This huge tank column came in. They came in on two roads. They didn't spread out. They came in two roads and went through the towns. And of course, the Ukrainians blew up on the bridges, and then they're bottled up. Then they start roaming around in the neighborhood of that little bridgehead, shooting up houses, civilians, whatever they could, until they were finally pressed back. A lot of the guys who pushed them out were simply reservists, retirees, civilians with guns. And of course, they had time to set up artillery and everything, but the civilians that got caught up in this, everything you imagine this is, and everything I thought was, this is propaganda, this is just gossip, this is like, no, it's really not. And I really didn't think I was going to see what I was going to see. Anyway, now I have to take a bite of this, so now you can all complain about that. What the hell is this? Say something.
I was reading the chat. I paused for a moment. Yeah, I was trying to go through all the messages and keep up while we're talking.
They don't do sauce or garnish or anything here.
No, Sean. No, go Russia. Russia bad. Russia always been bad. Russia been bad for a very long time. So I'm going to say no, go Russia.
There's one, there's one, and Lord knows it's the only semi-redeeming thing, is that from what I understand, the Russian army was comprised, the majority was satellite countries allied to Russia, today. So you're looking at conscripts from rural areas way out in the middle of nowhere. These are not Russians from Moscow or St. Petersburg. These are people in Russian uniforms,
right,
who had never used toilet paper. I kid you not. The locals talking about how they would just wherever, and then they use grass. This is not people who went to universities in Russia. These are literally backwoods people. This is the same Russian army as 1944 at 45 that entered Vienna and Berlin.
Yep. And they never throw a bunch of bodies at it until they made a wave.
Exactly. Bodies who are used to having nothing, no education, no life, and they stick them in a uniform and a rifle and send them off. That's what you have. And that's why you get excess barbarism. You have an army with little control and little care. Anyway.
So what exactly are we eating anyway? I just got to know.
Some sort of dead animal. Oh, dear God. When this thing is over, no, not even before, we're going to drag Gordon Ramsay to this small town in Ukraine.
And make
there's a bakery shop. There's a pastry store. Not bakery. bakery would diminish what some young kid, 23 years old, went to school in culinary school in London, Paris, whatever, came back there. The food that the pastries this man makes is a work of art. And as you all know, I put myself through college as a cook. It's amazing. He literally would make them look like different fruits, like a mango, but then it was like a chocolate on the chocolate shell, painted like a mango with sugar coloring. Then you had white chocolate inside, infused with fruit with mango flavor. Then you have mango mass in the center, little cream. I mean, it's all like really designed. And believe it or not, nothing is expensive in Ukraine. I ended up sitting there one day when it was raining, and I said, well, I want one of everything. And I had tried every one of the pastries. I put them up on Instagram, my Facebook. I like videotape opening them. There's a food show for that kid. There's a food show there. It's you have right there. I saw a question. Good way of making me shut up. Hard to get in? No. All right. Okay. There's a joke there. I'm sorry. I'm starving. No, it wasn't. I got on the train and I came in. And I crossed the border. They come through with dogs and the police and the military and customs and whoever. And of course, I thought I was going to be discreet. So I'll be all right. No American flags. No American flags on my 2 military backpacks. I put the camera under my seat. I'll try to look discreet, See, the thing is, apparently, I don't look like a traditional CNN reporter.
No, you don't weigh about 110 pounds and dress in. Never mind. Go ahead.
I'm not a professional douchebag. I'm an idiot. That's completely different.
Precisely.
So at every checkpoint and in the train, and I'm only wearing my thing, and I got my green jacket and my green bags, and they came out. So, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, I'm a military historian. I'm going into a conference. Like, are you Army? like, are you military? Like, well, no, a little bit, but for the reason I'm here, no. And it's like, are you agency? Like, no. It's like, you have the guns in your back? Like, no, I have no guns in my back. Every single checkpoint, are you military? Are you agency? Like, no, I'm a historian. And they look at me like, you don't look like a historian.
What do they think? Do they all think that we wear cardigans and derby hats and have the 8-foot long pipe sticking out of our mouths? I mean, is that we wearing the silk robes or what?
I mean, it's just like I should have brought my Indiana Jones hat or something. It's just every single instance is like, are you military? Are you agent? You don't look like a historian. Like,
I had this conversation with somebody about this. The guy, I went to a museum, local museum here, and I was talking about the exhibit to a friend of mine, and I was like, no, I was like, this is actually wrong. That's not even that's a repop. That's not a real one. And this guy, he's like, well, how do you know that? And my friend goes, oh crap, here we go. And I started pointing it out, and the guy looks at me, he's like, how do you know that? I was like, because I'm kind of a historian. And he said that. He goes, you don't look like a historian. I'm like, let me guess. I look like a raging drug addict or something because I'm covered in tattoos.
So at the conference, and some brilliant thing is I was talking at the same day as all the Ukrainian historians were presenting different finds in Ukrainian. So, and I don't know. I think it was my old history teachers who got me interested in history. And historians, I guess somebody said tweed on the tweed jackets with a little thing on the little patches, and here's some of them wore nice suits and ties, and the mayor was there, and some of the local, they sent out like a bunch of local press, and to interview me, and none of them spoke English. I'm like, this is going to be a really short interview. Like, how about you send like an intern who speaks English? But anyway, so someone was translating, and it was God, I mean, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I love these people. I had an amazing time, and I still am. I really don't want to leave because everybody here is really, really awesome, except the people at the reception here at this hotel. They don't smile. So, and I was doing an interview with the press, and they're like, all the cameras are on me, like I'm talking, and then there's the interpreter standing behind, and then when she started talking, they flipped all the cameras to her as she's and like, and one of them, she was like, so what do you think about the war? And I just started laughing, like, because they're all talking about, they're tippy-toeing around the whole history. So, well, talk about history, talk about fortress, and I just like, stop. What do you really want to ask? Just ask me the questions you really want, because you don't give a damn about why these idiot Americans here to talk about protecting your fortifications. What do you want to know? Just ask me the question. It's all good. Just, but they're all really nice, and all the historians they did their presentation. They're very, very methodical and very quiet. And then I didn't mind the way, and you have all fallen asleep crying to listening to me because I talk the way I do and I am the way I am. And the moment I was done and I came back over and I sat down and there was a little break and they came over and was like, you don't talk like historians usually talk.
Again, how are we supposed to talk?
You're supposed to talk. I was like, you're more presenting. I'm like, yeah, but I was also the only one at the conference who didn't need to talk in the microphone. Because everybody in the back seats, they could hear me. Everyone else and I'm like, what are you saying? I can't hear you. Like, do you need a microphone? No, I don't need a microphone. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Good.
Yeah, one of the guys in the chat here is actually he's one of my friends and the followers of the show. And me and him have been in a situation where we were out in out in the woods basically camping. I'm the same way. The guys couldn't believe the amount of voice that I could throw at them. They were 2 blocks, almost 2 blocks away, a good 500 yards at least. And they were trying to get some guy's attention, and I just barked off, and they all stood and like, did that come out of him?
There's something.
I got a loud mouth.
I think there's something about being an American that is just. I think it's who we are, even as people. Yeah, as a country, we're loud and obnoxious, and we tell everybody what to do, and everybody hates us. But we're still the only one. We still carry the timber, right? We still fuel the fire. So they God, this talks so loud. But also as people, we are these louder personalities. Will show up in our shine. In I don't know I have no idea what American shows like, but I mean we are. I think we talk differently. We present differently. Whenever an American tourist walks in the room, go like, oh God, the Americans are here. And I don't know how many times I did that. While sitting in a train and talking to somebody like, oh, Amerikansky. Like I was like, yes, over here. And I don't know. I think it's not just who we are. They know we're there. Like the Chinese tourists, they're just like this quiet stream. You don't really see them, but they're there. They damn well know when we're here. I saw 2 American tourists taking pictures and down here by at the mall. At least look like tourists, but they were certainly Americans. God, no doubt. I can tell a mile away. Anyway.
It's terrible, but it's friggin' true. They can. We don't have to talk. All we got is walk into a room and like, that's an American. Even some of my own friends and family from overseas, in Germany and in Sweden and stuff like that. All I have to do is show them a photo, and they're like, "That's the most American thing we've ever seen." I'm like, "I'm just standing next to a V." Oh yeah.
I wasn't. Hey, you're not American necessarily because you're born in America. America is something you become. It is something you. It is something you are. It's something you put on. You sign off on those papers, and all of a sudden, when you be assessed citizen, you walk out of the room differently. And all of a sudden, you grow spurs on your cowboy boots. You don't know why. You just start walking to the room and go, "Hello, everybody. I'm here."
I have actually asked that question. Because Mr. Purr there likes to, he comes on the show, and a couple other guys, and I actually asked him one day. I was like, "Do I really have a redneck accent?" And the room got quiet. I'm like, "Okay, that's not good. They're not answering. That's not good."
Oh, hang on.
Son of a bitch.
No, I'm done rendering. I can show you the skyline of Kiev, which is not exactly very spectacular, given the the weather.
I was just the weather was kind of crap today, wasn't it?
It has been crazy, rainy. So I mean, see the construction cranes? They're building everywhere. There's pretty much construction cranes. And if anything starts flaring up or the alarm goes off, I'll just flip the camera. We'll see what we got blinking in the night. No, it's we're funny people, and I was thinking about it because, obviously I planned for where I was going, and so I don't know. I did a rotten job packing this time. I really did, but. I mean, 90% of my T-shirts have American flags on them, but I'm trying to be discreet. Really, I am. Maybe.
That would be me. I would probably bring the most obnoxious Americanized T-shirts I could find.
I mean, I only wear grunt style T-shirts, so there's that.
See, grunt style. I thought you were wearing Baby Gap, but. Hey, I'm fat. I can't do that no more. I put on one of those shirts like, oh, look at the roll.
No, I was Lady Blob. I was writing about Lithuania, which I apparently also have to go, which is a huge fortress. I don't know when I'm coming home. My major called me a couple of days ago, sent me a text. Well, when are you coming home? Are you coming home for the parade? No. If our unit's in the parade, I'm not coming home till after the parade. I don't think I can't say at any point in time, no matter where I've been, I have felt unsafe in any which way, ever. Not here. And the rental car company would very much appreciate if I specifically did not bring their rental car into Ukraine. So I had to park that at my hotel in Poland and then take the train. And
are you kidding me?
I
don't blame them in a way.
No, so I taken the train. I'm eating some sort of schnitzel that's a little weird. There's with not nearly enough garnish and no sauce. So it may be chicken, maybe pork. I honestly can't tell.
Soylent Green is made of peas.
But I'm hungry, so this is breakfast.
Sorry, I throw that in there. See, that's why I travel with hot sauce bottles. I always carry hot sauce with me.
I have Splenda and tea. I should have brought booze for everybody, but no, I honestly I haven't. So I walked around in all these small towns. Lviv, holy crap on a stick! Lviv is a gorgeous town. Very Western. It was always very Western. See the Polish culture, Ukrainian culture, Austro-Hungarian culture, and I'm going to stop back there because there's a whole bunch of interesting forts around there. Plus, I am in this year's we're going to do a whole series about the World War I battles. I'm going to make you like World War I as much as World War II. Do you understand? Because, well, it's really interesting. It really is interesting. Plus, a lot of evolutions took place in World War I that you haven't seen because it didn't all happen in France. A lot of the interesting actually happened in the East, not only to mention after the war. So I'm working on the battle of Przemyśl, which is today the border, the town that's right on the border of Ukraine and Poland. It's in Poland, gorgeous town. And that battle started in Lviv, which was at that time called Lemberg. It was called Lviv before until the Austro-Hungarians took over the neighborhood, and then it became Lemberg. And the Battle of Lemberg, I can't quite figure out, because on one hand, the accounts were that the Austro-Hungarian army was routed really serious, really, really by Cossacks and by the Russians, and they literally fled and staggered their way, starving and disarmed, into Premish, which has a huge fort, is a huge fortress town, lots of forts around. There are 36 forts around that town, and they're amazing. And they staggered through there just in time. And the Austrian Hungarian commander, I can't remember his name, had to reconstitute his forces because they were so soundly defeated in Lemberg and Lviv. But when I talked to a Ukrainian historian about the battle for Lviv, he said, "Oh, not much happened." I'm like, "Wait, what? No, soundly defeated, thrashed, tons of thousands killed. That no, not much happened is not the answer I'm looking for." And another account of a historian, Dr. Watson, just wrote a book about that battle, and he too stated, well, that the Austro-Hungarians, they pulled out of the town because there was nowhere for them to stand and fight. There's no bastions, there's no forces, there's nothing, according to him. When I then go to Lviv, it is a huge fortress town, hugely built up. Austro-Hungarians built a lot. There's lots of bastions, lots of forts, lots of walls, lots of places to stand and fight. So I can't quite figure out exactly what happened there, because I hear all these different accounts. And when I look at the town, I don't see why there's not somewhere to fight from. So I want to figure that out. Plus, there's a little fort outside the town that is really, it's abandoned, but it looks amazingly interesting. And as those of you who all donate made this all possible, I will say I am spending a heck of a lot less money in Ukraine and Poland than I'm out in France, where the saving grace is that I'm staying at Roger's house that was shelled by MacArthur. Oh, we found some abandoned forts out in World War I forts as well. Oh, we found a tunnel system, one of the German U relocations, right on the Belgian border. And it was all nicely sealed up until I decided to push the steel gate, and it opened.
That never happens.
It never happens. I was with Marcus from the museum out there, and I never know with him. I was with a couple of German historians. We all know the West Wall bunkers were all destroyed. Well, except for this little part of the Germany where there's 600 of them, they're still left. And I'm like, really? And they are built into stone walls. You're built in under buildings. They are really, really innovatively placed in the cities. Bridge watches built part of the bridges. That's really interesting. And then we found a World War II U relocation tunnel built into a mine. And it was so big we literally couldn't go through it. But there was a big steel gate because there was a mining company or some other business that sealed it off. And I looked at it and I had a hunch, and I was fine, we'll just film the outside. What the hell? They close all these things off. It's Germany. And he went and he looked around and just said, well, just go push the door. It's like, no, it's locked. It's like, no, just go push the gate. Just try to pretend and look good on camera. And the damn thing opened up, and I thought it would. And if we were crawling through this thing, he's like, I got to go back to the museum to work. I'm like, not now. It's my birthday. You're like, shut up. We're going through this thing. So
right.
I'm going to go back there. This was huge. You couldn't see the back of it. It's also like partially collapsing and stuff. So that's, what's life without a little danger? I said today how I'm kicking around for munitions in the forest. It was really interesting to see. Oh, so when the Ukrainians dug up the bunkers here, when at the Stalin line, when they redug the trenches from World War II, literally same place. There's no reason to change. Interspersed trenches between the bunkers, they dug up artifacts, gas masks, and things from World War II from 1941 as they were digging up the trenches for the new fighting positions. I mean, it's just.
It just makes you want to go and help them dig. Sorry. That's all I can think of. Like, yeah, I know this is a fighting position, but dude, I'm going through this dirt. Sorry.
there's unfortunately for that, there's a village in front of that fighting position,
Right.
and I use that term loosely today. There's not much of a village left.
It's a parking lot.
There's a lot of damage here in town. There's a lot of damage, and there's a lot of It's interesting because I'm sort of trying to get a straight. The first day we're working through Google Translate. That I mean, not a lot of people speak English out here, and my Ukrainian is terrible. Um, hey, haven't you found any sites that aren't known to the general public? Oh, yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have. There's going to be some sites coming up this year that I didn't know existed when I came out. Haven't seen any of them in public knowledge. And when you look them up on Google, half the time there's not even a picture on Google Maps of them. So yeah, don't worry. You'll be well entertained this year. That was just D-Man had a question there. Where was I going? I was talking about something that. Oh, right. You'll see. There's a hotel. They specifically try to target specific places, and guess what? Rockets are not as accurate as you would like to think. So sometimes they fall in the general vicinity of the building they're trying to hit. So there's a lot of civilian buildings that have been destroyed. They actually had a T-72 factory here where they were building parts for the old Russian tanks, but they're building here in Ukraine, and that was destroyed, and that happened to be next to a hospital. You see where this is going. Yep. And in areas where they were fighting, everything just got shelled. And but you saw that there's I mean, I filmed it all. I'll put this together for you and so you can actually show it. But there was houses where these old guys, and these are guys between 40 and 60. They were sitting in a 2-story building with the Russian tanks going right by them. And as they went by, they would fire their RPGs down on the back. And one of them hit an impact. It blew the turret off and landed. And the Dergs were standing. They were looking at it, and they hauled it off to the side, so you can see. And went back to look at the wreck of the tank, and you can actually see the RPG penetrate all the way through the back armor, all the way through the engine block, and all the way into the compartment. You see the groove, and then it goes inside and explodes with the ammunition. So it was a bit of a surprise to everybody. And then, of course, you have then the Russians try to dig in on another hilltop. I've seen trenches today that are every bit reminiscent of World War I trenches, through forests, through towns, stuffed with, in a Russian trench, lined with wood, kitchen cabinet doors, mattresses, whatever you find stuck in the side.
Yeah.
Whatever you can build a trenches in a town. People are like trench warfare in the city. It's just really, really weird. And then you have, can you some? That's you. Yeah, I mean, you can say, all right, fine. Russia have been restrained in the case in the sense that they could do a lot more damage than they've done. But they've done a pretty damn bit of damage as it is. But okay, you're not entirely wrong, because half of this country is fairly safe. They'll lob rockets at a power station or an airport here and there, but for the most part, not, as far as I can see, indiscriminate civilian. They're not just flinging rockets at anything. But when they do and they miss, they do, however, lots of Katyusha rockets. And we all know
which
they
is to whom it may concern.
Yeah. And we were picking up a few of those today. I actually never figured out why we had to. Well, we were picking these up, but
I
you know what?
I
I'm
hear
not going to
they
ask.
are. I'm reading a comment in here. I hear they are losing a lot of Leopards and Abrams. No, they're not.
No,
In fact, the Abrams has just now crossed over the border to get into the Ukraine. Period. So no.
I heard that too.
Yeah, it's kind of impossible to blow up something that's not even in the country. But they just got finished with the training, and they're just now getting ready to actually see what they'll do with them. They're literally just now getting.
But when we talk about Russia being somewhat restrained, yeah, you could carpet bomb the city. You can just fire anything at anything.
Right.
Not really productive.
Well, none
But
of this is productive.
I'm.
But I get
I
what you're
would,
saying. You go after infrastructure first, try and put the hurt on the people. But
and here's the one thing. Considering that I came in the train, and I'm going to leave in the train. Every military doctrine in the world will say you destroy transport infrastructure. All right. The trains are running on time. It's a very Germanic thing of me to say, but oh God, I'll get yelled at some point. But they are. There's no disruption in the trains anywhere around here. When you get way down closer to Bakhmut and down there, all right, there is. But if and I actually asked. Of course, like I said, I've had conversations the last couple of days with the officers and soldiers that I'm not going to share because there's not the time or the place, and it's certainly not the time. But was it well? A lot of the tanks and the armor and the heavy stuff is not being transported on rail.
no.
And I'm like, why not? Isn't that the best way of going?
You would think so. You honestly would, and they've got a decent rail system that goes, in the direction that they're being trained at with the weapons in the first place. So why not? I mean, instead of putting wear and tear on it before it reaches the battlefield.
Yeah, I couldn't understand why tanks and everything is not coming in on rail. Trust me, I'm in the train with my back towards the direction of travel. Deliberately, but everything that's running, cars running in the cities. That's one thing I will say. For the young generation, and again, whether this everything I say has no bearing on why this is happening or all that stuff. This things we can hash out, and we need to hash out because there's not just one culprit here. Still, there's a reason why people are dying out here, and that's something I really hope we're going to figure out much deeper after the war is over. And what I'm saying is, it's very good and well that we can sit here and say, how did it come to this? Why did this happen? Who's to blame for this, other than Russia invaded? Because there's other components to this that led us here, and inside, knowing some of them, I am furious. I am infurious when I see and I talk to people in hospitals, and I see cars shot up with children deliberately. I'm saying atrocities by troops, and a lot of it are atrocities committed by Russian troops. No doubt about that, none. Whether that's being ordered by leadership, or the leadership is ignorant, or it's because they have these non-educated, close to barbarian frontline soldiers who are doing this because that's just the personality they are. I don't care. I mean, it happened, and it's happening the way it is. And we need to deal with what is now. And now we need to fix this situation.
Marco, easy way to put it, it's mainstream media.
There's no easy way. And one of the things I have stated is the mainstream media and the U.S. needs to shut up. And they need to stop telling the Ukrainian military just because they need a headline by 6 o'clock. You need to start a big offensive here now because, we're losing patience.
Yeah, let them get their buildup. Let them do what they are doing militarily because it's their country that they're trying to save.
And this is
Media
not
needs to
about.
shut the
Yeah. And the Ukrainians are they're pretty damn good about not telegraphing what they're going to do, because you hear every gossip, every rumor, every direction they're going to attack here and there and everywhere. They're fairly good at not talking. Let them do what they need to do, and give them. And I will say, give them everything they need to do what they need to do, because if what I've seen today is an indication of what happens when Russian soldiers take possession of an area, then we cannot, as civilized people, allow that to happen. I would be talking differently if this had been a professional army that would go out of their way to avoid civilian casualties, and it would be a force-on-force situation. For whatever reason, the politicians have decided to go to war. If this was a straight-up battle between soldiers that did not deliberately do what they have done to civilians, then my opinion would have been slightly different, because then I would deal with the whys and let the soldiers fight it out. But that's not the case. That's just not what's on the ground.
right.
And you see hotels, you see hospitals, you see impact all over town. You see windows blown out everywhere. The Russians hit the GRU building a couple of days ago, and that's admitted. But there weren't a whole lot of people in there. Smart enough, they did and this is not really a tactical secret, because everybody does this. When the war breaks out, military and intelligence and key headquarters move out of those buildings, and we assemble in forests or alternative headquarters. Do I think that this is going to be a problem? Yeah. This is not going. There's nothing here that's easy, and there's nothing here that's good, and there's no outcome that's going to be good.
It never is.
This is a shit show that would have been so much easier for the world to have avoided have avoided it, because now that we're in it, and I guarantee you that whole idea of negotiation and talking. I mean, how do you at this point expect two people that hate each other this much to sit down and talk after what's been done? I don't think the Russians want to occupy Ukraine, because they would be looking at another Afghan situation. They'll be looking at a Chechnya situation where every Ukrainian will try to kill every Russian they see.
Like you said at the beginning, though, the Russians really did think that they were just going to walk in. Everybody's going to be like, "Hey, great, the Russians are back." Yeah. They found out very quickly that this sovereign nation does not want to be a communist Russia again. They're done with that, and they're fighting back. Even the civilians are, which makes the case for every gun owner in the U.S. But that's another story altogether.
Well, if ever there's a case of why in America we all need guns, this is the reason. Because then no one's going to walk over and do this. And I guarantee you, and I know from my old interpreter, Lady Blah Blah, I heard you, I'm not done. If Ukraine had a gun policy like America, the battle would have been shorter. But I now know from my old interpreter from when I was in Ukraine, he is older than me, and I sent him uniforms and stuff on the first days because he wanted to go out and kill Russians. I'm like, fuck's sake, Igor. Dude, you're not even in the army anymore. You're not even in the police department anymore. Like, no, I want to go kill Russians. They don't have uniform for me. We don't have enough equipment. I'm like, fuck, I'll send you a uniform. Send him a uniform. He had to go find and borrow a rifle. Now, imagine if every Ukrainian was like in America, had a gun. I guarantee you there would be the front would be full of armed civilians on their own fighting like we would at home. And honestly, um, I'm just thinking a bit about what because I went to a couple of bases, and I there's some things I've seen that I don't want to share because I will share later.
Yeah, OPSEC.
But I'm given what happened when I know that there are Ukrainian men that have fled, that didn't want to fight. Get your ass back in your country and fight for your country. All right, no,
Well,
no,
we
no,
had
no.
those too. They said they jumped over the border to Canada.
Yeah. There's some things that are worth fighting for, and guess what? Ukrainians really like dogs. Um, that was that. I thought I was going to have a heart attack when I went to the first town. All of a sudden, there's dogs everywhere, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit, street dogs! This is oh my god, what am I going to do?" You know, I love dogs more than human beings.
They're,
I'm going to bring them all back to my hotel room. It's going to be a problem. They're going to, I mean, and it started raining, and I'm looking at them, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't do this. I'm going to lose my mind. And then I started finding out, well, all these dogs are actually taken care for. They're cared for by everybody.
yes.
All
You
the
take
shops
the village
are
to raise a
feeding them.
dog.
They go to different places that they go eat here and there. There's water outside every restaurant, every shop. The cars stop from them. If they're sick, somebody will take them to the vet. Now, I believe, of course, puppy dogs should sleep in somebody's bed. However, these are not unfriendly dogs, and people care for them. So, when in Rome, and like, all right, we'll do that. But still, I was like, the walking street. The puppy dog came up and talked to me, and he sat down, rolled over, so he scratched his belly, and I'm looking around like, where's the owner? And I realized there's no owner. I'm like, oh God, I came to Ukraine. I'm going to adopt a dog. What am I going to do? I don't have to. This whole train's going to go through my head. Like, I can't bring a dog home now. I don't have time for a dog. What am I going to do? I was like, what am I going to do? In a train? Do they take their dogs in the train? I'm sitting there in the shopping street in a small town in Ukraine. I'm trying to go through it. Where did I put my dog case from when we were traveling? I need an airport. Does he need shots to go to America? And I'm already
Right.
trying to bring him home. And I stood up, and eventually he walked off to the restaurant. I'm like, oh, okay. Lady blah blah. I don't think necessarily this is going to end if Putin he were to go away, because he may be replaced with somebody who is even harder line and worse. Remember
Exactly.
where Russians they recruit their talent from. So I don't think, like I said, it's hard for me to make any political speculations. I am just telling you what I'm seeing on the streets, and it is not pretty. It is a lot of civilian houses that are, and one of the saddest things was they're starting to clean up and rebuild, and they're rebuilding bridges, they're rebuilding the buildings. The housing. There's new windows coming. They have these little metal strips. I don't know why I'm smiling. I'm smiling because I think it's um, impressive. It's resilient. It's an impressive example of resilience. Let's go with that. They have these little pieces of the metal tape. So
Yep.
all the roofs that have been shot up or shelled or shrapnel, all the little holes or bullet impacts in their roofs, they put a little metal tape over so it doesn't rain through. So you have all these little blinking sparks on the roofs from where they covered up all the holes.
Yeah, that's like putting a giant red flag out there that says please hit me.
No, but this is what the civilians did after the fighting was done, just to keep the rain out.
Yeah, I know they're using one guy said it should be an infomercial for the what the heck that you know what I'm talking about, the glue, the spray, Flex Seal.
Yes.
The
Flex seal. Yeah. Oh God, I wish I'd bring him that. Yeah, just have that metal reflective tape, little pieces everywhere. The fences are all shot up, shrapnel everywhere. But they started pulling things. They pulled the wrecked tanks off the street. They cleaned everything up. It's been almost a year. So yeah, their lives are coming back here. Like the metal reflective, the metal duct tape, the one that like aluminum in it. That is like duct tape, but is aluminum. You'd use it for something that I can't remember. You're the one that worked with tools machine. But that reflective, it's not duct tape. It's that aluminum foil tape. It's called something, and it has a function that I don't know. Gorilla tape, yeah, but it's metal, shiny on one side. Never mind.
It's like basically it is a flex tape, but it's like
oh,
how do they call it?
Corbin, I'm hearing you. Corbin, that episode have gone down. It's on. If you're on my Patreon, it's on the Patreon. It went down because I used an episode that I had originally had the impression. I used a little interview with the guy that said he claimed his father had handled Kamla after the war, and I had friends of friends reach out from Andreas Sulzer, and that we were actually we were going to meet, and he was happy with what I was doing. And then something happened, and he got all pissy and told me I couldn't use it anymore. And also, I don't exactly know what his problem all of a sudden was. So that's why that has been taken down officially. It's still on the Patreon. If you shoot me an email, I'll send you a link to it at some point when I sit down with the computer and go through my 8,000 emails. But there will be a new revised episode of episode 1 coming up when I get home. So that being said, anyway, what I was saying was, so they started cleaning things up and pulling things aside. And one of the things they pulled aside into a parking lot is all the civilian cars that was shut up. They sort of dragged them off to one assembly area. And these are all civilians who tried to flee, families, women, children. And most of the seats are missing. And they're full of holes. And you can imagine how that went. And there's a lot of them. And that's where I almost damn well lost it. Every one of the cars that was identified where children were killed, they put a little teddy bear in. And this wasn't accidental fire. They knew what they were shooting at. Some of them were shot at from the front or the side or the back. And that's not okay.
It's the same thing they did to their own people during World War II, if you remember. You either go forward or we kill everybody.
But when you start shooting, when you start shooting civilians that are just trying to get out of the fighting, there was a family, mom and father and a small kid that was killed by mortar fire as they were hiding in a crosswalk, and the mortars walked in on them. They damn well knew what they were doing, and that's when that's not okay. Soldiers killing soldiers. That is what sign up for, but not civilians trying to get out of the way, not deliberately. That's not okay. That's just the kind of thing that just. That's the kind of thing when you see the kids' teddy bears sitting on the dashboard of a shot up vehicle. Yeah. Anyway, yes, there's a language barrier. The toilets. Catching Forest. I'm actually gonna. I think I'm gonna have to pop by there.
I was actually going to ask that. I'm glad that Jeff brought that up.
What the hell is this thing? Sorry. I never had the stringy thing on a schnitzel before. Anyway, there's garlic in this. Yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think we have to do a little history about what the Russians... Snake Island in Ukraine. Snake Island. Well, give me a little bit more information on Snake Island. I haven't heard of it. Have you?
Yeah, but I think it's in the southern area, or the southeastern area. So I'm not sure that's where you're going to go right now.
Okay. By the way, the unit of grandparents that shot up this whole tank column, they haven't gotten medals because they didn't have any medals to give them. Not entirely sure what to do about that. I guess it would be considered extremely insensitive if we sent them a box of iron crosses. But something. We really need to start getting some grants and getting some. We need to get some money together so we can start helping some historians, some forts, and maybe some of the people. I mean, we can't save the world, but God knows I really want to. There's some people that need saving. Yeah, 500-mile-an-hour tape for aircraft. Yeah, that's
Hey, this
it's
stuff works.
good enough for ceilings. Yeah. They really are not a bunch of Nazis out here. They're really not. I just keep doing the German joke because, well, I guess
Well, it works.
the Russians actually shelled. They shelled Baba Yar.
What the?
Well, there's a radio transmitter there. The Ukrainians put up a radio tower, so obviously they tried to take out the tower. I don't think it's. I mean, okay. I mean, at least I get that part. That has a tactical reason, but it just sounds wrong without the radio towers. Like they did what and why? The island under Romanian control. Used by Axis forces turned into target.
Yeah, but see the Black Sea Fleet. That's where the southeast.
That's a problem. It's a little bit inaccessible right now, my darling. I know you want me killed, apparently. It's like, why don't you go down and see if the Russians will give an interview? Then the Ukrainians will kill me when I come back.
Martin, it's not entirely true. Not even close. That's just another excuse. But we're not going to get into that right now.
That's the thing about it all is right now, the why, it doesn't matter right now.
Right.
I mean, the Ukrainian-Russian history dates back at least 1,400 years at least of back and forth and history. That their history goes so far back and is so complex. But right now, the why really doesn't matter. The fact that there's a war going on and dudes are getting killed on every side, and it needs to stop and come to a resolution that everyone can live with. That's what matters. And how the hell that's going to happen, I don't know. The Ukrainians are absolutely not going to give up any of the territory in any negotiation. The Russians are absolutely not going to give up any of their territory that they've taken in any negotiation. Is it even on the table to say yes, no EU, no NATO for Ukraine? Will that make the Russians pull out of the territory they've taken? Probably not.
No, because that was said before.
And if the Ukrainian army managed to push the Russians out of the territories they're taken, will that not put Putin up against the wall, having to then retaliate and escalate and maybe go something tactically worse? How do you win this? I don't know. I have a lot of people here with their big blue eyes that look at me and say, "How do you think this is going to go?" And I don't have. I don't know. I really, really don't know. I could see a lot of bad. I could see this being a slugfest until there's only one side left alive. Because I don't think I see any of these people going to give. I just don't. And the problem is, no matter how you twist and turn it, the Ukrainians sees the Russians as an existential threat, which is justified. Even if we can pretty much all agree that Russia does not want to occupy all of Ukraine. Still, the Ukrainians, especially after how this is going and how this looks and what they tried to do, can justifiably say that Russia is an existential threat. Russia sees NATO and Ukraine as an existential threat to them. Whether they're right or wrong doesn't matter if they see it as an existential threat. And some Russians firmly believe that we are. Well, then then they are fighting for their existence, just like the Ukrainians are fighting for their existence. How do you marry those 2 points of view into a peace deal? How do you make that happen? What are you going to send UN troops? I don't think you can say UN troops. That would be the only good, sensible thing the UN has. Actually, the hotel here is full of UN vehicles, UN vehicles. I don't know. Is that the way to go? A peacekeeping mission? I mean, who are the Russians going to trust? Who are the Russians going to trust as peacekeepers? British, Americans, Europeans, Germans, the ones who just send weapons to their enemies? I don't think that's going to happen.
Who's going to allow the communists to do the same?
Exactly. I mean,
Martin, let's see. Russia gave the U.S. and NATO every opportunity to avoid this war. That's a whole bunch of bullshit. We already know that. In fact, Zelensky and them said if it made Russia feel better, they would not join. And the Russia said, "Well, we're coming in anyway." So there's that.
Well, I mean, there's some truth to that, because Russia have always said that they would under no circumstances ever allow Ukraine to become part of NATO.
You know why?
They made it pretty clear.
The Black Sea, that's pretty much
the Black Sea. They're going to give the Black Sea free. And I mean, from Russia's point of view, playing devil's advocate, they have seen NATO, the organization that was there to counter them, pretty much occupy every eastern country towards their border since '92. And what happened to Georgia when it was announced, was that in 2004, 5? That Georgia and Ukraine was going to be prepared to streamline into join NATO. Well, Russia went into Georgia, didn't they? Bomb shot them up pretty damn good.
They've shot up every one of their former satellite states. That's exactly what the problem is.
Exactly. So, I mean, I will say yes. Certainly, the NATO expansion, rather, it can certainly be even the Russians need a reason to do what they do, and that's certainly one that Putin could sell to the Russian people. Say they keep coming closer. If I were to go back to before 2014, when there was certain American intervention here, which started one, but I mean it's just such a mess. And again, why this happened doesn't matter right now. However, if I could be a magician and go back in time and say, yes, Ukraine, no NATO, no EU, forge your own way. Be a great independent nation in the middle, trade with everybody, build up your military, be happy. That's what I would say if I could go back in time and wave a magic wand. But we are where we are now. And like I said, none of what came before needs to matter right now. What needs to matter right now is there's a war on. Go to war or find a peace. And I'm just saying, I'm not entirely sure where this peace deal would be made. I mean, there's a lot of passion. This is not an anger that's going to go away. These people are not going to play soccer next year.
Right. Well, and here's one of the things I want to bring up on that real quick too. When somebody mentioned NATO and everything else like that, you do realize that. Talking to the person that was talking about that, it has nothing to do with NATO. If it did, they wouldn't have let Norway, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, or Lithuania in there either.
Well, they did do that at a time where Russia really wasn't in a position to do anything about it. This is probably one of the first times where Russia is strong, or at least thought they were strong enough to actually stop, to try to stop something like that.
Martin, it kind of is. It's called Nova Russia. Look it up. Exactly. No, I'm agreeing with you.
I mean, I will say that the NATO expansion has been a provocation. Whether it's justified or not, or justifiably seen by the Russians or such, again, it doesn't matter if it is or not. What matters is how have they perceived it.
Hey, Martin, Let me let you in on a little secret. What I'm saying is actually historical fact, not feelings. Feelings is what caused this war in the first place. So let's just make that clear. Go ahead.
I missed missed the jet. Yeah, actually, meanwhile, yes, China is observing. Um, and again, whatever happened before, it doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is where we are and where do we go from here. And no matter how we twist and turn, that does mean that Ukraine needs to receive a whole lot more weapons and munitions. And I never thought I was ever going to be on the side where I'm going to sit and actually say, yes, could you please start sending Ukraine some bullets and some shells? Because a strong Ukraine, one way or another, negotiation or not, they'll still stand better in a war or in a negotiation or in a peace. And once we undertook it and you'll actually see EU flags fly all over the Ukraine,
right?
Which is interesting.
Strange.
No, that's little interesting. But if you go through Ukraine now, and somebody has spent quite a bit of money. Okay, you can take rural Ukraine, and it looks like rural everywhere else Eastern Europe for the most part. Sorry, but if you take the cities in Ukraine, yes, you have all that terrible 1960s, 70s workers' housing. Yes, but other than that, you have McDonald's, you have Starbucks, you have Prada and Gucci, and you have all of the traditional. It looks like any other Western European capital. It behaves that way. The big cities, that's how there's not much difference. It already looked like a Europe. Little sidewalk cafes, and it looks like the rest of Europe. When did the Russian attack Ukraine during Trump's presidency? Oh, you know that. You know.
Yeah, you really want the answer to that? Hey, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go use the restroom.
Yeah, I am firmly under the impression that he wouldn't. I think they would probably be afraid that he would march U.S. troops right in and on. I think he would have helped the Ukraine far more actively. He is, from what I remember, he also advocated to send them weapons, not blankets like Obama did. And it's interesting. The Ukrainians asked me today, if Trump wins the election, will he stop helping Ukraine? I certainly don't think. I doubt that very, very much. Bridge. Bridge. Really? Interesting. But yeah, this is also, like I said, this is a war where now we're seeing a war where new weapons are being tested. And I talked to Ukrainian friends about that. This is a little bit of testing ground for all the new stuff. You see new weapons, you see new weapon systems, you see new ways of deploying things. And by the way, as I talked to my tank destroyer friend today, he still didn't think he didn't think that the era of tanks were over. Like, I don't think none of us wants it, but none of us wants the era of tank to be over. And I don't want the era of battleships to be over. I want battleships to come back just because they're so insanely cool.
The floating punching bags were the best part of World War II.
The coolest thing is big stuff that fire big things. Yes. Incidentally, I have a new ashtray that is a 123 millimeter T-72 round that cooked off. But mine is somewhat exploded and rusty, and I have no idea who's like. Do you want to look? Oh, here's missile. Do you want to take missile home with you? Like, yes, it'll fit right in my carry-on, and no one will ask any questions.
Hey, well, shipping and customs. Can we get it through shipping and customs? Or can you just rent me a boat and I'll come get it?
Hang on. I remember when I left, and somebody found a T-90 on a gas truck stop in America somewhere. because the hauler had broken down and something.
Yeah, that was
Whatever happened to that? Where was it
Oklahoma.
going?
Aberdeen. I guarantee it went to Aberdeen.
Aberdeen. Okay, that makes sense. Well, there's quite a few of that. If you want a slightly used, only shot up once T-72, I know there's a bunch of them sitting out here.
We like things that go boom. Yes.
But it's
teasing, like same thing. Big guns and tech. Yes, we like things that go boom.
Yeah. I will also say that there's the T-72s, they had reactive armor, which counters the explosion of an RPG. And their team, they fired 13 RPGs at one of them to get through before they knocked it out. So, I mean, you're somewhat not vulnerable. It depends where you hit a damn tank. But 30, I mean, you have to sit there and fire 13 RPGs at a tank. The Russians were panicking because they knew they were bottled up, and they also had the BMP-2s with anti-aircraft cannons. So what's it? 20 millimeters or whatever, the 20 or something the weird Russians have. And I was saying, well, for infantry in the forest, an anti-aircraft cannon would really have messed them up, but they couldn't depress it enough. They tried to fire, but they fired over everybody's head because they couldn't depress it long enough or deep enough to actually hit the infantry in the trees, or in the trees. They're on the side of the road where there's forest on each side, so that's why in the trees. So 37 millimeter, yeah. Because I mean, AA fire on ground infantry, that's a slaughter. So the Russians, they could have done better. I mean, you're sitting in tanks with coaxial machine guns that are remote controlled underneath. You could have fired on infantry. They were trying to get out, and they were being bottled in. And I got video, and also the long highway. I went there. Oh, damn! The Russians blew up the Coca-Cola factory.
Oh, of course.
Barbarism. Well, it was in the way. It was in the way of the advance.
This just popped up on my screen. I'm not kidding. Russian sources report Ukrainian troops have excellent night vision that's supplied by the West.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, we gave them the best that we had, which is not great, actually. I keep telling people, when somebody says, military grade, that's not a flex that you think it is. Military grade means built by the lowest bidder.
But it's interesting because people sometimes ask me, is this a proxy war? I don't know. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not a proxy war, but it certainly is a war that's fought by two sides or three sides, and two of them are not Ukrainian. I mean, what did we do in so many other conflicts where we tested new weapons? Certainly, there's a vested interest by Western nations for Ukraine to swing west and not east. There always have been. What that interest is, there's some honorable intentions, certainly, and then there are some others that I suspect that I would like to know more about, because I think there are some personal motives or for a lot of things here. Yeah, they blew up the Coca-Cola factory, but again, none of that matters because people are being killed and it needs to stop somehow. And honestly, and the reason I'm saying is because this is where I'll say, if the Russians haven't learned to not rape women and children and torture civilians on their advance or to and from, if they haven't learned that lesson yet, then somebody needs to teach them that lesson. I mean, I say the U.S. have gone so far, and I know the U.S. military, we accept, there's a certain degree of acceptable loss when we drop things on people and civilians get killed, but we go damn well out of our way since the Vietnam War to not kill civilians.
Yeah,
I will say there is an extreme effort, probably more of an effort to not kill civilians than there should be, given that I'm sure there are fighting men and women in the U.S. military that have died because somebody didn't want to drop a bomb too close to civilians. Uh,
it has
we
happened.
It has
Um,
happened, and we have gone probably too far in order to avoid that. Whereas the Russians apparently have not learned that lesson. Okay, they are trying to aim. That's why it's interesting because when they fire all the rockets, the big guided weapons, they don't fire them indiscriminately. They're also expensive. They actually aim for a target. They don't always hit that target. Sometimes they go really, buildings next to buildings and things. Um, but when you look at the fighting forces on the ground, they seem to be responsible for a behavior that is absolutely not tolerable. To the point where I'm just somebody needs to show them how to behave in combat. Soldier on soldier, that's fine. It is what it is. You're there to kill your enemy in uniform. You're not there to slaughter women and children. And if they haven't learned that yet, then it's very hard to defend. Then at that point, I don't give a damn why they're here or why this started. I just want somebody to put a stop to uh, killing women and children.
right. Well, and that's like somebody said in the chat. Like Simon said, far from perfect, but the U.S. does make the effort to not kill civilians. That's exactly the difference between, let's say, the Western powers versus Russia. Russia is, we will throw everything we got, regardless of what it is, unguided, and we'll just kill everything. The Americans are like, we're not here to kill everybody. We're not here to do unnecessary destruction. We are here to stop a battle. We want precision. We don't want to just go, hey, catch. you know,
Right? Oh, Jensen, I think 1,000 rounds of 308 is about what, $325?
something like that. Yeah, it's
Something
actually
like that.
cheaper than
Yeah.
5.6, but that's because people in power really think that round is the most deadly thing on the planet.
Lady, that's an interesting question. The Wagner Group is deployed down in Bakhmut, and I did a little digging around in what they are, what the way they do things, and why. I don't have a particular impression that they are committing. Again, it's almost impossible to sit here and say unless I watched every video and heard any reportage, and I haven't met anybody who came up against them. So I really don't know. I don't have the impression that they are particularly interested in killing civilians. They are very much motivated at, again, if you look at the Wagner group, just like you look at the Azov battalion. By the way, the battalion's no longer the Azov battalion is now a regiment. By the way, they had more recruits.
I heard.
But the Wagners are fighting for, again, they are under the impression that they are fighting an existential threat to Russia. So that's their motivation.
They get paid for that.
They also get paid, but they get paid to fight for Russia. They don't get paid to fight just anywhere. In that sense, they're not traveling all the world being hired by XYZ. They're working for Russia. I haven't met anybody. I haven't met any of them, and I haven't met anybody who was up against them. So I really can't talk to it. And the same thing for the Azov battalion. The same thing for the Ukrainian International Brigade. I mean, there's soldiers from all over the world that's joining the Ukrainian International Brigade to get paid to fight for Ukraine. I mean, it's that's an interesting thing. You know me, live and let live. I could see a time. Ukraine is not really necessarily the prototype of this. I could see a time in the future where wars will be fought by private armies. because it seems that everywhere now we have contractors, and the Ukrainian International Brigade is a contract army of sorts. The Wagner Brigade is a contract army of sorts. The Azov Battalion is not a contract army. They don't have anything to do with this. They're part of the Ukrainian military, or I think was the original National Guard. I asked them to do an interview, and they haven't gotten back to me, and neither has the Ukrainian International Brigade. So I don't know. I can't speak to people I haven't met or their motivation, but I could see, and we have so many jobs for military contractors all over the world. There seems to be more and more of a drift towards personal armies to be used as opposed to national armies. Of course, when you do that, you don't have to declare war. You don't have to involve Congress. You don't have to involve your government. You can just hire an army to do your bidding. I'm not sure that's a good thing. I think it'd probably be better off when armies and soldiers fought out of this patriotism. I may be wrong here. But I could see that as being part of the new world. What do you think?
No, I'm agreeing with that. I'm agreeing with that's the way it seems to be like it's going. We're private armies are going to be having at each other mostly.
I mean, how many of them don't we have in overseas ourselves?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, even one of the guys that I know personally from my area has his own contractor service.
Right.
So. And I just put one of our people on. Well, not one of our people, just one of the people in the chat on timeout.
What did he issue? What did he do?
A few things.
Like I said, we're.
I'm not going to repeat them because I think they were.
I mean, I think that the reality of this particular war is, yes, there's a lot of emotion going on every side because everybody has an emotional point of view, and probably based on their emotions, they're probably all right. Probably everybody's a reason to be emotionally engaged in a conflict for whatever reason or vantage point they're looking. Then everybody can have an opinion on why it really happened, or the motivations, or if it's right or wrong. The problem with this particular conflict, of all things, I'm not going to call this a conflict. It makes me feel like a fucking idiot. This is a war. Is that you and I, and all of you in the chat, and all of you who are watching this, none of us really know the truth about this. There's a very large part of this picture that is not disclosed, probably not will be. There's some very serious players with some serious motivations that have a hand in this. And we don't know what they are. I know what they are. You know what they are. If we'll ever know, I don't know. But I do know that. First of all, because there always are. There's always an underlying and undisclosed reason for why things are happening. So for us to sit and argue or be angry or mad at each other because of our particular vantage point or perspective doesn't matter. And it's sort of...
We're all just cogs in a machine.
It is, because and it's what really is what we really need to understand this. That information none of us have. So we can sit here and be mad at each other because of opinions based on what we currently know or are aware of, or the information we've been given. But we can't actually have an argument or understanding of what really deeply started this, because this started a long time ago. This didn't happen a year and a half ago. This didn't happen in 2014. This started long before this, because people set this in motion for various reasons. Or this snowball started rolling long before that, and none of us really knows all the little intricacies that led to reason for that. So until we have all the information, I think we should just basically agree that war is a really sucky thing, and soldiers shouldn't shoot at civilians. And fortunately, there is some work towards war crimes trials of the individual Russian units and soldiers doing this. And if there are Ukrainians that are doing similar things on the other side, I don't know. But if there are, they should be held to account too. This is not a two-sided. This is not a one-sided sword. One-sided sword. That's the wrong terminology.
What
One-sided
the heck
coin
is
or
that?
two-bladed. What's the hang on from? I think I just kind of mixed up a Danish analogy that was something else. Hey, I'm tired. Okay, but the that medal have two sides, and it's got to be equal for all. Everybody needs to behave, and civilians, women, and children are off limits, and dogs and animals, and those stories I've also heard, and that's when I'm ready to go to war. That's what I'm like. All right, where do I sign up? Like women and children and dogs. I'll fight for that.
Right.
I mean, what else can a man really do?
That's that was one of the comments that I had to deal with before was well, why are the Ukrainians still fighting? I was like, wouldn't you? And they didn't understand what I guess they didn't understand the question. I said, would you fight? No, like for the Ukraine, I said no. I said, would you fight? I was like, because if somebody, I promise you right now, I am half disabled and 43 years old. I'm not in the shape that I used to be in. But if I start seeing parachutes, it's going to be a skeet shooting situation.
Yeah.
You step foot on this soil, I'm going to beat the shit. I'm sorry.
If I have to die fighting for my country, I'm good with that. If I have to die fighting in another country, saving women and children, that would be a consideration I'd be willing to make. By the way, I don't know if you can see this. Speaking of bullets, this is an AK round that cooked off in a burning tank. That's why it exploded out sideways.
Is the other piece the peoply bits?
No. There's only the projectile. No, I don't think there's a no. It was in the tank when it cooked off, and this cooked off with it.
Yeah.
There's also some Ardia munition that cooked off, and there's a car full of rocket parts that.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'm still trying to rebuild my collection. So if you want to grab a couple PMC Wagner patches off of some well used equipment and send it over, that's perfectly fine with me.
They weren't here. Actually, I don't think the Wagner was here.
No, they weren't.
No, they weren't, because the Wagner they ran into an existential problem. Once Russia annexed, the Wagner was created as a militant organization that could only fight off Russia's soil on behalf of Russia. They couldn't fight on Russian soil. That was their charter. So when Russia annexed those 4 oblasts in the east, and they officially became Russian territory, then they had to incorporate the Wagner group into the Russian army. And you've seen some of the Wagner videos of how they're screaming and shouting, and they're I can't remember his name. Bill, I can't remember his name. Sorry. What he's yelling and screaming about how on a field of dead Wagner soldiers, about how they're not being supplied by the Russian army, and how they weren't being given the supplies they wanted, the shells they wanted. Wagner was used to being a very heavy. The way they would attack was they would have a heavy density of artillery support. They would go in a point and shoot and fight and get all the support they wanted to get into a place. Very aggressive tactics. When they were transferred and incorporated into the actual Russian army, they also became part of the Russian army logistics system, which is atrocious from what I can apparently tell here and what I've seen today, and what. Yes, it was atrocious. So that is why there was a spat between the Wagner groups and the Russian leadership, or Russian army leadership, was specifically because the Russian army wasn't used to their tactics, couldn't give them the support they were used to having, and their dudes were getting killed because they couldn't sustain coverage of the tactics they used to employ.
That's because Wagner likes to use blitzkrieg tactics, because remember, he did model his mercenaries off the SS.
Yeah. But imagine here, you have a whole Russian army with all their tanks, and they're marching straight down 2 roads. 2 roads. I mean, who does that? Who does that?
Yeah.
In one damn long line, though, all that snake tail of Russian tanks that was sitting, They couldn't move forward, and they didn't have logistics to go backwards. And at that time, the Ukrainians didn't have what they needed to take them all out. I mean, but it's interesting that the guy I spent time with today, he said, well, the German tactics in 1941 was way better than the Russians now. And I'm like, what? They didn't learn anything? I always thought there was the U.S. Army that always forgot all the lessons learned in war and peacetime. Apparently, the Russian Army forgot theirs as well. Problem is now everybody's learning. They got rid of left all this part of Ukraine because they couldn't support a logistic train of what they had, like 10, 15 different advance routes into points into Ukraine. The logistics couldn't handle that, which I actually also was like crappy tactics, really. And I was the first one to say, no, can't be right. The Russians are bad. They know better. I always no. There's something wrong with the situation. The Russians, they know what they're doing when it comes to military. They're just they fought. They're tough. They this is a mistake. They didn't want to. If they didn't take an objective, it probably wasn't because they didn't want to. And I was wrong. They literally tried to do something in a half-assed way, and they couldn't do it because the tactic was wrong. Everything was wrong. The logistics, everything, the support was just really bad. The roads they chose were really bad. They were easy to the bridges in front of them were being blown up one by one. They chose to run tanks through a heavily populated, built-up area instead of over. I mean, every mistake.
Yeah, sense, right?
I mean, have you read anything Guderian wrote, or even Rommel wrote, or I mean, Clausewitz, for God's sakes? Anybody? I mean, have you
any of them?
Any of them? I mean,
Rommel's book, that was like #1. Don't do that.
Yeah, Blitzkrieg. You have a Schwerpunkt, but your Schwerpunkt can't be one road leading down 10 bridges. I mean, it's like, no, you need to have variables, but no.
And what was one of the one of the best parts in Guderian's book was don't stack up. I'm saying don't stack up, but
that too. And I would, by the way, say the Stalingrad bunkers, that whole line, and they haven't actually named the battle line from last year. They haven't given it a name. Well, we were in bunker 511. So you can't name it line 511. They haven't come, so I don't know. We can give it to them or something. But that line held. The World War 1941 bunker style Stalin line held against the 2022 Russian army.
One of the gentlemen that I do talk to, I haven't heard from him for a while, so I hope he's well, but that I talked to that's part of the Ukrainian military, he said the same thing. He said, no, never would have thought that something that was built in the 40s would stop a modern army like it did.
Right?
They were not thinking it was going to work, and they're like, it's working.
It's working. I would show you a trench system that I walked today that looked anything exactly like World War One. Exactly. And I keep thinking, all these brilliant egghead military theorists we have today in our misled military, they keep saying, "Oh no." And God bless Sean Hannity. He's not a military man. He doesn't know any better. I just keep having heard him say that no. Future wars will be fought with drones and remote control tanks and remote control jets, and that we won't need boots on the ground. And I keep like, no, you haven't misunderstood anything. 100 years, it's still dudes that's standing in a trench with a rifle and a grenade fighting against another bunch of dudes with a rifle and grenades.
Hey,
and
Bob,
that's not going to change.
Yeah, Bob had a comment about the stuff there, the bunkers. Bob, you said that 2 of them got blown up. Do you know how many of them are out there?
Which
line that we were just talking about that actually held against the modern army?
That was thousands of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you've seen 2 videos. 2 got blown up. Yeah, that's what we call a propaganda.
Which bunkers? Stalin line bunkers or which bunkers?
Yeah, he's not. I'm assuming the Stalin line because that's what we were talking about. But
yeah, Bob, just clarify which bunkers, because Trust me, I drive through a city that's actually full of bunkers right now. Also, the modern ones. They have, and I did not take any videos or photos of those. I did have a couple of roadblocks because they're improvised and they're kind of fun. You'll see them on my live somewhere. But the actual fighting bunkers that the Ukrainians have stuck up everywhere, we'll look at those after the war is done. They look pretty much like any German Regelbauten, just made in slightly different, quickly made. You have an air attack or artillery round or something go on them. It's just like they're not going to hold up on that. I don't think. But they damn well looked the part for road control. They look the part. Certainly, it's a shelter. Bunkers are not done, trenches are not done, and tanks are not done.
No,
tactics just needs to evolve. I was a little worried when the trench system I saw today was fairly straight, and of course, then the World War One. It should be zigzag trenches, so you can have some spas coming right over and strafe. And I'm thinking, well, I'm also standing in a really heavily forested area with a heavy canopy of trees, so probably couldn't see it from the air anyway. And we got pictures of a couple of a rocket we saw we picked up, and I actually don't know none of us really knew what it was. I'll post a photo of that at some point and see if you guys can pick out what things are. By the way, damn, I saw two of you guys who actually donated some money, and thank you. I didn't. I was so caught up in whatever I was talking about, I already forgot what that was.
I think you were still stuffing schnitzel
or eating us. That these things happen. But thank you, really, seriously, thank you. This is. I decided I'm going to stay here until in Europe filming until I run out of money. that is pretty much my plan, because there's so much new stuff in the East. And Roger found a whole bunch of interesting stuff in Verdun as well. And I got Switzerland to go to as well, where they have some forts in the mountains they wanted me to film and show as well. Mm-hmm. And there's something up at the cement plant. And I spent time with Fiebinger son and grandson.
Awesome.
Very, very, very nice people. Fiebinger's son was actually born in America. He's actually an American citizen, because
I did not know that. I knew that there was a child, but I didn't know that.
Fiebinger came over to when he went over in 1948. He worked for the army. Fiebinger was Kamla's favorite engineer from Austria. Just catching you all up, and we changed the subjects dramatically.
Well,
like U-turn, and he worked for the engineers for until 1948, and then. After that, he stayed in America and worked for private companies, contractors. Well, which is pretty much the same thing as you just work for the government, but you can't be FOIA requested. We all know how this works. They all kept working for the same, entity, but under a different name. But he was, of course, under the impression that, you worked for civilian companies for a while. And he invented some really cool stuff for the U.S. military, Fiebinger did, including the Texas Towers. And that are still standing with a radar detection towers out in the ocean of hundreds of feet deep water, and that he were able to construct. So that's really interesting. And even more fun is he didn't seem to know a whole lot about what his dad did. And Dad didn't talk a whole lot about it. They talked about the grandkid about it. But I'm seeing him again when I get out there, and I'm actually taking him to one of his dad's locations that he didn't know of. He's a lawyer, a really nice guy, likes hiking, good shape. I don't think he can contribute much to our research, but, it'll be interesting to just show him something new. And I also met with you. Oh.
Now, Andreas, I told him about that before we even got on about
yeah.
Rob.
Well, I will tell you, I travel expecting to lose everything several times over. As I made my way through Germany, there's a spare camera sitting outside Berlin with a hard drive of everything I filmed up till there. There's another newer backed up hard drive sitting in the car in the underground parking garage of the hotel in Poland. I have 2 hard drives here. One that's always with me. I practically take it with me so I can see it when I'm showering. I have 3 backup cameras in 3 different bags in 3 different places. And I went to Ukraine expecting that if I lose everything, but I managed to fight my way out with a hard drive, I'm still good. So yeah, I try to plan for things. Like I haven't felt unsafe at any point. No, I don't use a cloud. I don't trust those. I want a hard drive. I want something in my hand. Damn it. The only
Precisely.
thing that truly
Don't
have
trust.
disappointed me a little bit about Ukraine is that when I was here last until now, I've noticed that the pretty girls no longer wear nice shoes. I'm just saying. It's a real thing. They were all wearing nice high heels last time I was here. Now it's all this weird flat-footed American boot stuff and tennis shoes. Still summer dresses and nice, but it's just I'm just saying.
You
I'm
made
just
me look
saying,
at my
women.
feet.
I mean, girls. Seriously, shoes. It's a real thing.
Hey, the
And if that's
majority of the time, my wife is wearing flip-flops. So
I'm just saying, he's like, high heels sometimes just makes a difference. And I figure if that's the biggest problem I'm going to encounter besides that what's it called 1840 toilet. Lady blah blah, you already like 6 foot tall, but still, you know what? Just saying, high heels just makes a difference. Just small things.
Telly, I keep forgetting. I was going to revisit a comment they had made earlier about the World War II items that are unfortunately the new battlefield. There is actually a Ukrainian unit that's their job is to, if they do find something, to preserve it, to take it and move it, if they can get there. And I'm do emphasis on if they can get there without getting slaughtered. But,
no. Okay, sorry. No, it's not about the shoes, you morons. It's about how women's legs look wearing high heel shoes. Jeez, what the hell's wrong with you?
I was waiting for him to catch on. But
it's like, jeez, come on, wake up. What do you ever seen this? You ever seen a stripper wear flip flops? Hello. Just saying. Not that I have.
Sorry, I got that image. Like I said, I got that image.
See what's wrong with that image. Anyway, and Teddy and Telly, you better eat lollipops with that name. I'm just saying, you're close enough to Telly Savalas that you better eat lollipops. Do you remember how he always ate lollipops, Teddy Savalas? Kojak. God, you're that old. You remember Kojak?
Everybody remembers Kojak.
Yeah, and he always ate lollipops. Teddy Savalas. Oh, work with me. Fine, let's go back to the shoes.
We seem to have one that's really extremely butthurt because he got put in timeout for saying derogatory things. He's acting like a toddler in our chat right now. That's every comment is now he's just being a jackass, and he's about to get another one. Anyhow, the whole point.
What's out there? More blondes, brunettes, or redheads? Blondes. Blondes. I'm sorry. I mean, hey, this is important here, okay? Yeah, I know World War III is about to start, but we're talking about cute women. Hello. We're talking about the prime motivation for most men to go off to war and die. Pretty girls. Do you all remember? I don't know if you know this, but during World War I, when it was very hard for the British after 1914-15, recruitment sort of started drying up a little bit, considering all the young men came back in boxes. Right. So the British Army hired young, attractive women to publicly shame young British men for not having joined up. If they were found in civilian clothes, they would yell at them and shame them publicly. That was actually a recruitment tool, and questioned their manhood for not being in uniform.
Yeah, wasn't that thought up by no, not Chamberlain.
Not Kittinger.
Yeah.
I actually don't know who thought it up. I just
No,
there you go, women. I'm just saying, women getting us with the white feather. That's right. Giving them feathers. But it was the whole shaming thing as well. You got Kojak on your recumbent, but you got Kojak on. Oh, cool. I mean, we all remember Kelly's Heroes with Kojak. That's just most important. Yes. Oh, the biggest problem for me. Oh God, the most distressful thing out here was the women wearing flat shoes. Yes. We're not going to get off the shoes. This is the downhill slide.
So we've now went into Tino's shoe fetish.
No. It's still about women's legs in shoes. I mean,
well, yeah, they have to be attached. I didn't say you were. Never mind.
Listen, if we're all going to die in the pending nuclear disaster and doom, the last thing I would like to see before I expire is a pretty girl. Is that so damn much to ask for? Not wearing flip-flops. Honey, I'll die for you. Would you please dress up just once in a while? Oh, God. Anyway. Oh, God, that was pretty Swedish nurses. You know, Swedish women are a little strange, Pierre. They are. Maybe just the ones I've known, but they're a little special. Yeah, special. We'll go with that. Sexy boots are cool too. See, now we're talking about something that's really important here. Women's footwear. And I mean, do you always see that little trucker thing with on the trucker, the mud flaps? There's always a little girl outline, high heels. So,
oh, did you just assume gender of the mud flap?
Yeah, I did. And do you know what I don't see in Poland or Ukraine? Any of that.
People tucking it back?
Definitely not seeing any of that. And as both the Polish and Ukrainian army colleagues have been very forthright about agreeing with, is that does not win wars. That loses wars. In fact, they're very happy taking munitions, weapons, rockets, and really, please send some damn F-16s. But that other thing, we can keep that. They really don't want it.
No.
And like, seriously, people are laughing at us. When I'm meeting people who have serious problems, who is fighting for their lives, who really, or even in Poland, they're worried about. Well, everyone's worried about World War III because they're on the damn front line, and then they see the conversations we're having in America about the complete and utter stupidity of all of that. I don't need to specify that because you all know what that is. What are we thinking? That's the kind of stuff you can argue when you have fixed every other problem in the civilized world. You can start that idiocracy. But anyway, that's why it gets a little. I mean, people here truly look up to America, and they truly are grateful. And they are. They really are. They are really, truly grateful for the help they're getting, and for the support they're getting. But sometimes then they're like, "But what is all this about?" Like, no, I can't explain that. I'm sorry. You still get like, "You're such a great country." What's with the admiral dude in a dress? I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I can't
explain that. I'm sorry. I can't explain that to any other allied military. I'm sorry. I can't.
I got asked the exact same thing by the.
It's like, what the hell is wrong with you people? It's like, I don't know. Can't tell you. I don't understand. Pierre, you completely drifting off here. Right. Yeah, I mean, that is a weird thing that you're not. I think that's why I kind of enjoyed out here because you have a little bit. You know what I kind of like about the Poland, especially Eastern Poland. I actually like Eastern Poland. I did not know I would. Also, I've seen all Hitler's train tunnels now. I will show you, and it's a little bit like going back to 1990, late 90s. The clothing, the music, the behavior, the way things are. You know, when life was still fun and we things were kind of good in our world, like the 80s, the late 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. That was a good time for the Western countries.
Yes, hair metal
It
was
wasn't a
amazing.
very good time here, but they are kind of moving into that now, except for that it's not really a good time for them either anymore. Anyway, but if you cultural on the streets and the way people wear and they dress and they look, I still see people run around in leather pants now. It's a little bit like going 20 years back in time.
Please tell me they're not wearing the teal green spandex too.
Okay, I'll tell you that.
Oh no. Oh no.
I had a guy in orange pants and a yellow jacket and an orange shirt tell me I needed to buy some more traditional clothing.
Come back to the States and go to the Goodwill.
It was like I was wearing my traditional plaid shirt and before my talk and as it was translated through one of the lady historians who speaks English. She's like, yeah, she said you should buy a different shirt. You should buy this and this and this. And I'm like, I cannot, in all good conscience, take fashion advice from a man in orange pants. I'm just saying, it goes against my religious belief. It must. He was a very nice guy, and it was just no, can't do that. But yeah, it is kind of a little bit like that. It actually is like going back in time. I think that might be why I like it here. Not to mention that all the towns I like was built by the Austro-Hungarians. Oh yeah, torn jeans is the thing out here. Oh, and Ukraine have country music, by the way, which is actually pretty good. Just saying. That's all. Poland has country music, and what's it called? Czechia has country music, but Ukrainian country music is pretty good. And then for some odd reason, they also play German schlagers, those old German songs, which I guess would be a fairly decent reason for the Russian to shoot at them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that one.
It's like
make the bad men stop.
it's like, but the blue overalls, I actually seen one of those. But the fashion really is a little bit like back then, which is good. Rap music, no. There's some fairly heavy stuff. I took it upon myself on this trip since I was going to be gone longer, and to actually every now and again take a few hours and go work out. Just because I figured if the longer I keep myself in one piece, the longer I can keep doing this. And so, coming from a world of the gym and workout as I do, I can tell a lot about a town by going to the gym. It's like stick my foot, my finger in the soil and say, "Oh, this is what are we doing here?" And, get the music. Gold's Gym Berlin. Oh, the Germans and their green stuff. It just makes me just crank up diesel engines to no end. Them and their green stuff drives me nuts. That's why we don't have that problem out here. When you talk about Ukraine being integrated in the European Union, I have gone past some power plants, some coal-fired power plants that was built in the late 50s, early 60s, where you really can't see much of the blue sky around the chimneys. I'm not saying pollution may be a thing there, but I don't think that they actually will, I don't know, conform with any EU regulations anytime soon. In fact, both Poland and Ukraine and most other European unions, like Hungary, are protesting, will never be able to survive this whole green insanity because they would simply turn off all the electricity and they'll either freeze to death, starve to death, or just die. Just it will not happen. It's insane. It will not happen. Bornholm. Damn it. I have not been there since I was 13. How is there any? We got Jonas Ibsen here from Bornholm. Ibsen. When I was, I had a staff sergeant Ibsen. I think in the academy. Anyway, are there still any of the German fortifications or testing locations left on Bornholm? Now that you're here and you were so foolish to announce that you were here, you are going to get a Bornholm question. I know the Germans were testing or at least measuring rockets flying near that island, and the Russians took it, so I don't know. That's why I'm kind of curious. No, I don't remember when I was there. I was 13, so I was just chasing the girls from the other class. I wasn't actually looking at bunkers as I would now. That's why I'm asking if there's still any of the German bunkers or testing stuff on Bornholm left. It's a small island that's a good day sail away from Copenhagen, and it's just there. That's why I haven't gone, because it's just not exactly in the way. Back to subject. Right, bunkers. Luftwaffe in Kiev, 1944. I don't know yet. I actually thought they got kicked out of Russia in late 43.
Yeah, they were pushed into what was it? Well, they were pushed into Kurland Pocket in 44, and then some of them remained there until the end of the war. But Ukrainian, they were gone.
I think they were out of Ukraine around. Well, actually, I should know that, because the book I wrote, which none of you have read yet, actually entails an assault gun battalion that was part of that final retreat, and I do believe that was coming up on. That could be a little later, actually. I don't remember right now. I will have to look into that at some point in time when I'm actually awake. Haven't slept. Like, what are we doing tomorrow? Oh, Stalin line tomorrow. Tunnels, connecting tunnels between bunkers. Stalin line tomorrow. Yes. They had 12 years to build these damn things. So tunnels. I'm crawling through tunnels tomorrow, which is better than dancing around minefields. Which, as the Russians retreated, they actually managed to plant landmines and tank mines in their retreat, which
lots of them.
So, did Halder visit Ukraine back in 94? Yeah, I believe he was. Yes, he did. I think, and Hitler was here. One of my new friends wrote a book about Hitler's headquarters here in the Ukraine. That book there, and there, and the dude without the mustache. That's the dude that ran around with his unit and RPGs and shot up Russian tanks last year. Andrew, just saying, don't knock the old dudes. When you get to a certain age, you no longer feel you have anything left to lose. You'll just go stalking tanks in the night. Damn it. It's like, when you get to an age where your doctor wants to give you an extra prostate exam, you'll just go off in the night with an RPG. Like, I'll come back to this. Did he ever answer? He did not. I'm really excited. I had no idea the Stalin line was this extensive. But again, they had 12 years of building it. So that I'm really curious about. And I got a lot more about the What's this called? What's his name? The other line. Oh, now I am getting tired. It's kind of late here. Molotov line. Dear God, I'm gonna take a look more at that. I guess I'm forgetting a line. Mannerheim line, up in Finland. Ugh. Do you own a kilt? No, I'm not a homosexualist, and I'm not Irish or Scottish. I know the Irish don't, but some Irish do. Don't ask me why, but no, that would be a hereditary thing. That would be culturally insensitive if I had a kilt.
I don't do kilts, and I don't do lederhosen either. But
I mean, I have the legs for it, but hey, Bunholm's been part of the network of measuring stations from the V1 and V2s. That's right. There was also listening stations. Hey, and listened. The U-boats made too much noise. Yes, there's a lot of Second World War history on Bunholm. I know. Is there anything left of it today? But yeah, that was actually very interesting. I wish when I was there, I had more of a wherewithal to look around. But like I said, 13. So yeah, I would be curious to see what's still there. Damn it, I have to go to Finland on this trip. Am I doing all lines? I guess I probably should. I mean, Finland is really far away.
Thanks, Per.
Yeah, right. Great. Now I'm going to Finland too. 84 minutes longer than my prostate.
That's why I was like, thanks.
Goody. I wonder if we have a delay. Lederhosen. I mean, back in the 90s, everybody had leather pants. Even Machine had leather pants here.
I also had the jean jacket with the patches, just so I know.
I had the leather jacket with the fringes. Yeah.
No.
And then I gave it to a friend of mine who did line dancing. It seemed more appropriate. Tibet? Is there a Tibet line? I'm not climbing any more damn mountains. Sea Shepherd. Are you?
Say what?
Are you wearing a hat from Sea Shepherd?
No. It's from Howitzer.
All right, buddy. Jonas, I will actually at one point take you up on that. If you promise the women folk will dress up nicely and wear good shoes.
Yes, I know enough language to be able to read some of it.
Oh, something else.
Leather jacket from high school. Yay.
Yes, and I travel with it. That's why it's here in Ukraine with me. No, I found a piece of shrapnel from the fighting outside town.
Oh, you're going to
make this shrapnel.
I got to look up a thing. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. I don't have it. Well, I want World War II shrapnel, but I'll take any type of shrapnel. So you need to bring some more back.
Okay. I mean, this thing, I'm just saying, you imagine being cut by this thing? It's actually so pointy. I don't know how I'm going to transport this, but this is the kind of crap that's flying around or flew around the streets of Kiev. I'm just.
You might have to actually box it and ship it home. You'd probably be better off doing it that way. Getting your little collection together, putting it in a box, and sending it. It'd take a month to get there.
You don't. I didn't measure it for radiation, but I mean, it shouldn't be. It's Russians didn't do depleted.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did the Russians use depleted shells?
No. That was no.
That'll be fine.
But yes, there's still war museums in Ukraine.
Yes, there is. I was at one of them yesterday, and it was open too. Everything is generally open now. There's still, like I say, every day. There's, except for the last couple of days. I think there's been 3 days, and then these past 2 days, where I've been here, where there hasn't been any alarms or sirens or attacks of anything. It's actually very quiet. It's like I'm a little disappointed. I'm sitting up in the 10th floor. I'm kind of like, can I get like see some missiles and some intercepts, please, and like do me a show. And then I thought to myself, like as we drove here, I saw a lot of these tall buildings with all the windows shattered, like anything that came near shrapnel blast on some of the building. The building next by blew up, and then all these tall glass buildings, half the windows blown out. And you I keep. Well, then we pulled up to my hotel, and I'll take a picture of it because one of the guys from the military he set me up was the fortress, the citadel is right next to it, and he runs that's the citadel fortress. So he set me up here, and because it's right next to the military base and the citadel, and when we drove up to it, I saw this gigantic glass hotel of 18, 19 stories, this big rounded front. And after we've been driving all the way through and seen all these tall buildings with shattered glass frames, and I thought to myself, I looked at this hotel, it had the same shape. And I thought, you remember Claymore mines? That you have the little inscription of Claymore main front towards enemy. And I thought to myself, that's my hotel. I'm going to stay right there in the middle of this glass window, which is a perfect target for anything that's flying around the street in Kiev. That's kind of how I my first thought when I saw it was like, couldn't I just like be in a little, like what I'm usually staying at, in a little pension? Anyway.
Yeah.
So honestly, of course, me a lot of horror for years. NATO sent uranium hardened shells. Yeah, that me as well.
Depleted uranium.
Depleted uranium. No, it makes all the difference. It takes a little longer for the soil to be messed up. Yeah.
I was making the joke.
And I know that depleted uranium, it is still uranium and it still leaks radioactive material, and the soil still turns this strange orange color. But anyway, like we say, Monty Python. They did. Good.
The old holy hand grenade.
The holy hand grenade. Of
Antioch, yeah.
See, I mean, if this wasn't such a serious situation for the Ukrainians, my sense of humor, and I'm sarcastic fucker, so are they. But there's so many things I would love to do with these guys, like give them, I can't give you any F-16s, but here's the holy hand grenade of Antioch. This is not the time for that kind of humor. Maybe. No. Does Rambo Part 6 have to take place in the Ukraine?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just reading tellies. Anther, what? Shooting a simple leather pants, but replaced them to get Levi's will cut. No, stay in your old leather jeans, dude. When my mom passed away a couple of years ago, I was going through my old clothes I still had clothes there from back from when I was in college. And I actually found my old leather pants, and I can still fit them. But I was also like 225 when I was there. No, I'm not going to go visit Chernobyl because you have to go with a specific guided tours, like Urbex tours, and all those guys are shut down for now because it's a bit of a hot zone, not in the sense of radioactive, but because it's from time to time, the Russians will target it, and there was still fighting around it. There's a bunch of unexploded munitions around it. So this is just not the time for that kind of sightseeing. I wanted to see the Stalin bunkers because I wanted to do World War II stuff, and I wanted to see how urban fighting was done today and how what the tactics was being used. Because then at least I can give you an honest account of the fighting in the city, because I'm there. I can show you what happened and who did it and what they did, and at least the soldiers' accounts from the ground is the most honest thing we can ever get here, and that's all I want to get. And then when as history progresses, we will. No, Sean Hannity, he always says that. I don't listen to Sean a lot because he does tend to repeat himself a lot. I don't listen to a lot of anything, but I always remember back in the day, Sean Hannity always said, "Future wars, we don't need boots on the ground." He always talks about that,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just be wishful thinking. Um, and I
Well,
will absolutely be back in Ukraine.
there
Uh,
is. Oh, go ahead.
it's out for sale. Oh yeah, no, the book is it's absolutely for sale. It's a commercial book. This is English. That's the only English piece of literature I got, except for the diploma I got for speaking. Um, no, I'm going back here. I'm going to be spending also the next trips. There's going to be a lot more time in Ukraine and Eastern Poland because there's just so many things we haven't seen and so much history that took place out here. Um, and fortified areas that we really don't know anything about. We haven't visited. So no, there. Plus, it is also a fairly inexpensive way of going. It doesn't. It cost me a third or a quarter of Berlin or France. So, and I honestly can't say I feel unwelcome anywhere. However, what time is it? It's 10:38. All right. It's now going to call it and go to bed in very shortly because I got to get up again tomorrow at 7, do my thing. Um, have heard from people of soldiers of unusual tactics used to help the Ukrainians push the Russians back. Well, you literally had thousands of civilians, home guard, National Guard, reservists, and also outright civilians with a month of training, where everybody got armed, got quick training, got armed, got pressed into battle, and everyone was fighting with motivation. Um, where and the important thing is this is a little bit like what Denmark did with the home guard that I was trying to explain to the state guards in America is instead of deploying in areas that they're not familiar with. For instance, the California State Guard, in case of an emergency, would deploy its southern units in the north and the northern units in the south. And I was saying that is wrong. First of all, it takes time to deploy opposite where they live, and you're better off deploying in a neighborhood you're familiar with.
Exactly.
Here, the Ukrainian guards did the same things. The Danish Home Guard or National Guard, we call it, will deploy in their immediate area, so they have guns at home. They can deploy right away, and they deploy armed and ready in an area they're familiar with. That's what the Ukrainians did. They literally civilians and guardsmen they deployed in their local neighborhood, so they knew the terrain, they knew the forest, they knew the cities far better than the Russians did. And that's why they were easy to flank him and side him and ambush them in all these areas because they knew exactly where they were going. And of course, you have the use of cell phones. They would literally, because there's still civilians in the buildings, and a lot of this was built up areas. There would be a dude sitting in a cell phone saying, "Oh, right, well, the Russians are digging a trench right here. Drop a little ping. Here's a coordinate. Text it to the artillery unit, and next you know, one shell, one kill." So a lot of modern fast-paced technology has been put in place. You will also find that Ukraine is no longer moving on Google Earth or Google, and yeah, you can still find your way around, use your GPS and all that stuff, but you're not going to have any updates on Google Maps.
Right.
You will have updates over Google Maps of the areas the Russians have occupied. Just saying. So technology plays a part in this, and then of course you have the drones that are flying around everywhere. I have my drone with me, but I keep thinking, nah, I don't think I should fly my drone. Something will shoot it down.
Yeah,
Um,
somebody's gonna get upset really quickly.
exactly, and also I'm like, there's checkpoints throughout everywhere, like just checking. But I'm driving around with the military, so it doesn't matter. Everything is fine. It's only when I'm let out alone they're like, "Who are you again? What agency do you work for?"
Well, right. Well, you can't say necessarily like you said, earlier, like that the Ukrainians don't have a sense of humor, because I've seen and one of the guys that I was talking to that's on the front was sent me the video, and he goes, "You want to see something funny?" Instead of dropping grenades, they were dropping rubber dongs.
I
They
mean,
were
there is a
flying them
sense of
over and
humor.
dropping them to the Russians.
Well, we came from women's shoes to rubber dongs.
Yeah.
It's a long night. I'll
Okay.
take a serious question here. Simon, drones have the Russians are using far more drones than the Ukrainians, from what I can gather from the information I have.
Yeah, the Ukrainians are just
They're
more
building
accurate.
a lot. They're using them a lot. There's a lot of drone, and then, of course, there's countermeasures to drones. For instance, directional EMP, which I haven't heard anybody talk about. So I figure I shouldn't ask because, well, hopefully somebody smarter than me is in charge of counter drone measures. But that's kind of what I would do. You don't need a whole lot of technology to build an EMP beam or area jamming device. Anyway, but yes, drones have a place, but also just the simplicity of going on your maps and so, well, this is where they're digging. Here's a pin. Send the coordinate. Everybody can drop a coordinate to anybody with a cell phone, and cell phones are working. The Russians did not have communications. It's absolutely true that they stole cell phones from the civilians to communicate with each other because their comms were so bad. An interesting piece of information that I remember is I specifically asked, so is there any line of communication between the Russians and the Ukrainians when it comes to information of recovery of dead soldiers? And there is one entity that is sort of liaisoning to the Russians. That's the wrong word. Never mind. I just made a word up. Where they will send the Russians information if they have a dead Russian, and vice versa. It's not very efficient. It's not very well functioning, but the Red Cross is nowhere to be seen, which was noted by the Ukrainian soldiers that the Red Cross doesn't seem to be playing any part here or any. They were not impressed with them, put it that way. Say that. So, but yeah, technology is a lot easier, and there's going to be the javelins are insanely popular and accurate. Stingers as well. They're for the most part, a javelin will take out a tank first try. But when you start doing the RPG-7 and you start, like I said, my friends, they had to expend 7 rounds in RPG or 7 rockets in RPG in order to take out one T-72, mostly because of the reactive armor and because you have to hit it. And again, because some of these dudes are they've been training this for a month and now they're at war. So an RPG-7 is pretty user-friendly. The joke was always a child's first weapon should be an AK-47 because it's childproof. RPG is a little bit the same thing, really. I fired them. They're pretty straightforward, but you can miss. I have a very interesting picture of training with in my previous life with Russian and Baltic soldiers, where the head of a former head of a Russian Special Forces unit was the instructor, and he missed a car at about 150 meters with an RPG-7. And because, ballistics, when you shoot, bullets spin up, and then that's why after about 300 meters, or 300 meters margin, or 308, you're dead on target because the bullet spins up. Well, an RPG does the same thing. It comes up and spins up a little bit and then comes down. And he didn't take account for that in the distance. So I actually did the snapshot of him firing an RPG at this vehicle, and you see the streak of it just about half a meter above the car's roof. He did not speak for the rest of the day. He was very, very upset that he couldn't hit it. So, to hit a tank under under combat situations with an RPG, with everything that's going on, one thing is hitting it and then hitting it in the right place to take it out. So but this is technology that's been existing for what? How RPG-7 was made in what, 50s, 56? I mean, this is old technology. That is still in use today. So of course the new stuff, um, is better, but there's less of it and it's more expensive. And especially that. Okay, have any of the Ukrainian soldiers expressed to you what Western weapons are helping them the most? They really want to get some hands on some airplanes so they can actually start doing something. The Russians did not use a lot of jets or helicopters over Kiev for some reason. They don't know why. And the ones they did do were the pilots were very skittish, um, being afraid by taken down by Stingers or what Western anti-aircraft weaponry we do have. And tactically, I would say we need to send them some anti-aircraft weaponry, some hand carried. But sooner or later, the Russians are going to start using their air force, especially after if the Ukrainians deploy Western tanks, they need to have an umbrella, certainly against aircraft and helicopter, but you also need to have to consider artillery and rockets. But anti-aircraft weaponry is absolutely a must. And the Russian pilots here would sometimes just fly over, but not come so close to the Ukrainian positions because they were simply afraid of being shot down, and they would drop their load on wherever they were, and some of that just happened to be on civilian buildings. And that brings me back to World War II, where the Sturmovik pilots would take off from Russian air bases in 41, and they damn well better not come back with a bomb on board. So sometimes the Russian pilots in 41 was thoroughly untrained. They would take off, they would fly against the Germans, and if they couldn't find anything and didn't know where they were being attacked, they would just drop their load wherever they were and then return to base and said they hit something. And it seems that is a little bit what the Russian pilots did here as well. I know because I stood in an apartment building surrounded by other apartment blocks that had been hit by an aerial bomb from a guy who just dropped it and there was no military anywhere near it. They just dropped it and ran. And you'll see that eventually. So yes, that anti-aircraft definitely. Artillery, obviously, but I think we're moving into a world of more of rockets and self-guiding munitions. You also have all these horrible landmine things where you can deploy them from the air. I actually thought they were only experimental, but it seems that that's the next thing is you will drop a landmine and it'll just sit itself, and it'll sit there statically and wait for weeks until something comes by. It'll acoustically be triggered. If it hears a tank come by and whatever it's set for, it will deploy an aerial mine against that target on its own. So technology is coming. And I was in a Polish hotel and there was a robot waiter. And everyone thought it was a cute novelty. The little robot was driving around and you put your trays on there and you take things off the robot. And I thought to myself, well, right now the robots are coming to take my dirty cutlery, and in a couple of years it's coming after me to kill me, and it'll be made by Cyberdyne and it'll be called Terminator.
Does it not remind you of the Stallone movie?
Which one?
Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd, yeah.
Eat recycled food. It's good for the environment and okay for you.
The one of the scariest things looking at the future is the artificial intelligence that's coming, that we are implementing. We start putting artificial intelligence in weapon systems. I don't think I can actually express online legally how I feel about that. I even believe one of the companies that's working that is called Cyberdyne.
Yay.
Yeah. It's like there's bad ideas and then there's bad ideas on steroids. And artificial intelligence, when we barely have human intelligence, this seems like a really bad idea. Right. I heard that the Ukrainians has mines and use mines that self-destruct if they don't. I know there are such mines. I do not know if they have them or not. Because I honestly didn't ask, and I know that's a very Western thing to do, having self-destruct landmines. when we wandered off towards the minefield, and he said, "Oh, beware, there's mines there." And I looked at him and be like, "I have a knife. It's okay." He said, "No, come over here." It's like, isn't that how you used to probe for mines? But now they're anti-magnetic. Now they react to things. Now they're tamper-proof. Now there's all this stuff. Now it's just everything's a bad idea. Jason, thank you. Being in Ukraine, that'll pay for my hotel room and coffee for the next 2 days. Things are really, really are cheap here. Proximity fuses, motion sensors, sonic waves. There's a generation of Russian weapons that are so interesting. Some of them have roots into German World War II technology, from what German World War II research, from what I understand, which is really I have to say the word interesting. Knowing that I have friends sitting down there, it's really interesting because I do have friends on both sides.
Same. Only one side can talk about it,
and none of them really. Well, actually, the Russians I know, they really don't want to be there, and the Ukrainians I know, they really want to be there. And I think that is what is going to be a very large determining factor of how this is going to go, because logistics win wars. But if you have a highly motivated bunch of people who are willing to fight to the last, that will give you an edge over somebody who's, why are we here?
Right.
And if you have Russian soldiers that, and justifiably, if you have Russian soldiers from Russia who believes that they are protecting their motherland, fine, that's one thing. But if you have all the Russian satellite states soldiers who are literally there because the alternative is, well, we may as well go to war and make a little money because we're going to sit here and drink ourselves to death in what little weird oblast we live in anyway. Their motivation is more, well, let's go loot something, than it is to go, let's fight and die for Mother Russia, because they barely care about their own lives. So it does boil down to motivation to a very large extent.
Yeah.
And I think that will be, I'm not, let's see, how can I phrase that to make it, there was a minute today where we were walking through some places and saw some things and talked to some people that if a Ukrainian recruiter had come up to me and said, "You want to come to the front and kill some Russians today?" I would have jumped in the back of that vehicle in a heartbeat. I was like, this is not okay. I want to go make these people pay. And that's not how I show up to look at a battlefield history. I mean, I come here with an open mind to see what's going on, to hear different sides, and to end the day being ready to go to war for one side. I mean, like I said, I saw some things. I saw some things as a human being I'm not okay with. As a man, I'm certainly not okay with. As a historian, I would like to just detach myself and say, well, this is what I saw. But I am thoroughly not okay with some of the things that's happening on here. What am I missing? Who's being sarcastic when you tell? Oh, anybody know?
Our wise ass friend, decided to say that you were being sarcastic and possibly drunk because you said thank you for the donation. That they'll probably get you a lot because the prices are cheap.
Well, first of all, I was being sincere about that, and second of all, of course, I was being sarcastic. I am sarcastic, and second of all, I don't. Well, that'll be the third of all. Actually, I don't drink, and I certainly am not going to sit in a country at war doing so. I have enough reason to be mad for the day. I'm drinking tea, like civilized human beings do. Anyway, all right. I thought I said thank you.
Yeah, you did. You have the button that can be used. I don't. All I can do is put them in timeout.
Oh, you should have said something. Done. What the hell is wrong with people? I mean, it's interesting because, like I said, there's a lot of passion going on with a lot of things, especially in this war, and especially like when you saw the post I had up when I was sitting in there having breakfast and the air raid sirens went off. How some people could be upset at that observation. I was like, that's strange. It's strange that some people do not accept an observation of something. But we live in strange times, and you cannot make everybody happy.
It's unfortunate.
Can we have a thing? I'm Pierce asking. Can we have a chat in the evening next Sunday? Well, Pierce just wants to chat because now I'm actually on Pierce time, so he's getting late. We can. Honestly, Pierre, I don't know where I'll be. I don't know where
Rupert,
I'll be next week. Um, so I mean,
it's not
we can
propaganda.
have, huh?
Rupert said that your comment about the teddy bears was propaganda.
Oh, let me see. Oh, well, propaganda means that you have to propagize one point of view or another.
Right.
There were dead civilians. There was killed with their children in a vehicle, where subsequently somebody put little teddy bears in the vehicles to mark that in these vehicles children were killed. I don't know that that if that makes somebody feel something other than I don't know how you can not feel something to that. But
Yeah, it's
facts are facts, and things happen, and things have been said and done, and uh, like I said, this isn't at this point in time. It's not really about the whys. It's about the where do we go from here. But you can't win everybody, and I am the one who's sitting here, and I am the one who's walking around and talking to the people who were here in the places where they're telling me what they did and what they saw and what they happened. And maybe I usually don't take it on a point to bring opinion or tell you guys stories, but I'm the one who's here.
correct.
And until you've come here yourself and you talked to the people and you've been to the hospitals and you've been to the battlefields and you've seen the wrecked civilian houses, then I suggest you maybe withhold too much judgmentalism until you do. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, hot zone to hot zone. And thank you, Logan. Oh God, yeah, lots of books actually. Don't worry, I have. Before I left, I did write up my will, and he left, and I did write up my will, and publishing the two books, last two books actually are actually in there. So it is time to go to bed. Yeah, we've been up at 7, and we got to go crawl on the ground in tunnels tomorrow. Yay! And some interesting forts. But yes, I will try to do a weekly chat, especially now that I'm here in Europe because we're actually on the time zones, except for machine show, radio show, because God knows what time. Always in the middle of the day over there. Anyway, you guys. I'm going to put up a little video after this of my first meeting with a Stalin line bunker. See if you feel impressed with this small little thing. See where it goes from there. And you all take care and be safe. And I would say send me gossip or let me know if anything's going on. Because Lord knows I don't watch the news. I don't have the time. And I haven't seen any white helmets. But I don't think we're going to here anytime soon either, but it would be interesting. Anyway, guys, it's late here in Europe and it's nice and quiet, so I'm going to go to bed. And you guys take care. I will see you all soon, and I'll keep posting little bits and pieces of what's going on. And there's a couple of episodes coming up, one from Hackenberg and one from a updated, revised version of the history of the Beetle. Beetle being, the Volkswagen Bug, not the Beetle. I don't think I could do a story on the Beetle. And I met a lot of new bats that I named, but that's a different story. Brandon, I'm signing off. I'm going to go pass out because I can't see straight anymore. and I will see we do this again next weekend. I should be in Poland at that time, but God knows.
Should be. Yes.
Take care. If anything interesting happens that I need to know about my neighborhood, you guys will probably see it on the news before I hear about it here. And if it happens here, someone will tell me in Ukraine. I won't understand anyway. So, Vaya con Dios. Auf Wiedersehen. Do swidania. I can't say goodbye in Ukrainian because I just can't. So, good night.
Me either.